Good afternoon. We will start the regular city council meeting of July 7th, 2021. Madam Clerk?
Mayor Ronnie Felder,
Here.
Chairperson Shirley Lanier,
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Kashamba Miller Anderson,
Present.
Councilperson Trodrick McCoy,
Here.
Councilperson Douglas Lawson, Councilperson Julia Botel,
Here.
City Manager Jonathan Evans,
Present.
City Clerk Claudine Anthony is present, City Attorney Don Will. Here. Wynn, sorry about that. Thank you, Madam
We
Chair.
will have a moment of silence led by the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilperson Miller Anderson. Do we have any additions, deletions, substitutions for the agenda or to note any of these items?
Yes, Madam Chair. Staff is asking that item 5 be removed from the agenda. That's a recognition of Ms. Vale. She's unable to attend this evening.
Okay. Are there any disclosures by the council in regards to any of the items that are listed on the agenda this evening? Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as listed?
Move to adopt the agenda as amended.
So, second.
Madam Clerk?
Councilperson McCoy,
Yep.
Councilperson Botel,
Yes.
Pro Tem Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Chair Lanier.
Yes. We are at the item on our agenda which is considered the consent agenda. All matters listed under this item are considered to be routine, and action will be taken by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a councilperson so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there anyone that wants to pull an item from the consent agenda?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to pull number 2, just so the public is aware of, just giving an explanation of what we're doing with that.
Very good, and I'd like some more information about number 1, so both items. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda, which means that there's nothing on it now?
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Madam Chair, there's no need to do a motion for the
I thought
consent
there was.
agenda.
Hey, number 1,
Resolution number 77-21, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, accepting FY 2020-2021 state aid to libraries grant funds from the State Library and Information Services Division of Florida in the amount of $16,712, authorizing the Director of Finance and Administrative Services to establish a budget for the grant award and approving and providing an effective date. Madam Chair, members of the board, there are no public comments on this item. The acceptance of public comments on this item is now closed.
thank you. Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair and members of the board, I'd ask the Library Services
I'm
Director.
sorry, Mr. Evans, we need a motion for that
Motion
item.
that we approve resolution number 77-21.
Very good.
Madam Chair and members of the board, I'd ask the Library Director, Mr. Rodney Freeman, to make this presentation.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Rodney Freeman, Library Director. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Could you explain to us, it's establishing a budget, but where's this money coming from?
So this is our regular state aid funding that we get every year. We've had, what happened was, last year we had 22,000, and this year there was a decrease in the
That's
funding.
the reason I asked, what was the decrease?
So that is really controlled on the federal level. So the IMLS, they get the money, which IMLS is a federal institution that governs all the state libraries, and then they funnel that to the different state libraries. So they had that slashed previously, and then they had more money, and that's why we upped it to 16,000.
Okay. Very good. That's the reason why I pulled this, because I know that last year was 22. Any other questions in regards to this item? Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Botel,
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy,
Yes.
Pro Tem Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Chair Lanier.
Yes. Item number 2.
Chairperson Lanier, do you want me to announce if I approved, or are you going to announce it?
To announce.
Yeah, you're supposed to announce whether or not an item is approved.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Item approved 4-0. Yes, I'll do that, thank you.
Resolution number 66-21, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the mayor to execute a memorandum of understanding between the City of Riviera Beach and the Boys and Girls Club of Palm Beach County, Inc., establishing a partnership for the expansion and interconnection of the after-school and summer camp programs, providing for the use of certain city recreational facilities for the programs, allowing participants who are residents free access to certain recreational programs, funding a certain number of resident participants in summer camp programs beginning in 2022, providing for an effective date and for other purposes. Madam Chair, members of the board, we do have a public comment on this item. The acceptance of public comments on this item is now closed.
Move to approve the memorandum of understanding with the Boys and Girls Club.
Second.
Very good. Can we get a presentation?
No, ma'am, we don't have a formal presentation. We're just here to discuss with you the bullet points of the MOU and answer any questions you may have. First of all, I'd like to introduce Steve Cornett, who's the Chief Operating Officer for Boys and Girls Club, and Ms. Freeman, who's the Director of the Riviera Beach branch of the Boys and Girls Club.
And you are?
Richard Blankenship, Parks and Recreation Director. The idea for this MOU really stemmed from, partly from the master plan and partly from us just, Mr. Cornett's experience and my experience working together in other areas with Boys and Girls Club. The primary point of this MOU is it's going to reduce, if not eliminate, any duplication between agencies. Right now, we run an after-school program, and we run a summer program, and we do special events, and we do programs, and we do a multitude of things. The Boys and Girls Club is focused on after-school and summer and that type of activity. So to have them as a part of our offering for the city it benefits everybody. In simple terms, the way this would work is during certain hours of after-school or summer, Boys and Girls Club would occupy either Wells, Tate, or both, depending on the numbers, and they will conduct the program. In other areas that I've been, where this joint agreement is functioned, Parks and Recreation may come in at time to time to offer an athletic or a wellness or something like that, but the primary goal is so Boys and Girls Club can focus on after-school and summer, recreation staff can focus on filling ball fields and gyms with programs, and the end result would be that we have a greater offering than we do now and that we have had for quite a while. This is a budget-friendly MOU for the city as well. The Boys and Girls Club, and when I said it to Steve a few minutes ago, his eyes got kind of big. They got the heavy lift in this MOU. Conducting a after-school program in a summer camp, while this is what they do day in and day out, for the city, that's an agency lift off of our shoulders. And the level of service doesn't decrease, and I would imagine it's going to increase, so it's a win-win for everybody. There's no impact in this agreement. There's no impact on the FTEs. We're not reducing full-time staff. They can now just focus on doing other things than having to go pick up kids or having to babysit a group of kids until folks get there. They can actually program. And the bottom line, the end result, is the city gets better service, gets better opportunities, and we meet the demand of the citizens. And now I'll turn it over to Steve for any comments he may have.
You know, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you, guys. Me and Ms. Freeman, on behalf of the Boys and Girls Club, just want to thank you for this opportunity. I think in our reality is when I met with Jonathan and, members of, the cabinet is what we wanted to be able to identify is what are some of the needs of the city. We serve all kids in Riviera Beach. We have right now in the summertime, we're hitting about 225 a day, all the way getting up to about 275. All those members are Riviera Beach members of this community. We just want to make sure that we're adding value. We're not asking for any handouts. We're not asking to be able to do anything. We're asking everybody to be able to come to the table and say, hey, how can we help our city kids, the kids that are right here in Riviera Beach? And, we have a phenomenal club director, but this partnership was ingrained, when Carl Bolden was a club director here. Building relationships is what this city does. And we just want to add value to the city of Riviera Beach and making sure that our kids do have a place to go, but also we're supporting the city and their initiatives where we're not duplicating, sports and activities when Wells and Tate's and this city has done sports better than any other cities in the country. And the athletes that came out of here. So we just want to make sure that we're adding value. We're able to bring our resources to the city to say, hey, you know what, if there's a gym that you guys need, if there's a facility that you guys need in doing an activity or event, we want to be able to come to the table with you guys and say, hey, our facilities are available, and being able to open that up to you guys. So when we met at the round table and really bringing in creative and a meeting of the minds, we just thought it was a great fit that we can be able to build this partnership into truly something special. And I want to give Ms. Freeman an opportunity to talk, and then we can open it up to questions. But I truly, want to just thank each and every last one of you guys. Ms. Freeman.
Good evening. I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. My name is LaTasha Freeman. I am the club director at the Max Fisher Boys and Girls Club located right down the street. I'm born and raised in Riviera Beach, so this is home for me. We are averaging, he stands to be corrected, 255 kids as a minimum, up to 275. So we're actually getting back to a sense of normalcy since the whole pandemic hit. So I'm looking for the opportunity to just be able to make sure that we're providing the services that need to be provided for our children in Riviera Beach, especially during the hours of 2 to 8. And I tell my CEO all the time, my COO, that during those times, 275 kids aren't standing on the corner. They're not breaking into your homes. They're not being a product of the murder rate going up because they're inside a safe place. And the opportunities that they have are phenomenal. Each year we offer a program called Youth of the Year, and the person that wins, the young person that wins that title is given a 4-year prepaid scholarship to go to school. So we want to make sure that every kid in Riviera Beach has that opportunity to be a part of the things that we're offering at the Boys and Girls Club. Thank you for this opportunity.
Some of the finer points of the MOU would be things like they would have access to Barracuda Bay to do fundraisers, and that would be fundraisers for the club in Riviera Beach, not for any other. They would have access to free swimming lessons for their kids. When I say free, it's through the Drowning Prevention Coalition, which we do an annual agreement with, but we work with them to get that set and make sure that their kids and parents that want to get taught how to swim have that opportunity. Another finer point is we will, with our parks crews, mow their facility whenever it needs it. That puts more money back into their coffers. It doesn't take us long for a whole crew to go and mow that compared to them having to pay a contractor to do it. So there's, and this also includes police department and the fire rescue in this agreement as well. So it's a well-rounded agreement. It wasn't created in a vacuum. There was a lot of thought that went into it. So it's an exciting time for us, and I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead, you recognize.
I don't have any questions about it. I just wanted to make a comment. I know Ms. Freeman has been there. How long have you been there, Ms. Freeman? Go ahead, tell your age.
It's year 15 for me.
How many?
15.
15 years. But she's been around much longer than that, and, my heart is, I love the Boys and Girls Club because it did a lot for me when my son was younger, and she can attest to that because he went there from kindergarten to 5th grade, right at that exact location. And just having that place for him to go from 2 to 8 o'clock. I didn't always make him stay to the end. I felt bad sometimes that he was there, but, it was available. And so, if we can offer more kids the opportunity to participate, if we're able to be good neighbors, I'm in full support of the program, and I look forward to us being able to do additional programs, too, so that we can get back to how we used to be. Being born and raised here, there were so many programs, and I know that we can get back to what we had before. And if we are able to provide some assistance to the Boys and Girls Club while we're helping ourselves as well, I'm in full support of it. So thank you all so much for the partnership.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for this group?
Madam Chair, I don't have a question, but just
Yes, sir.
full support. I know Ms. Freeman, I've been to the club a couple times. She runs a tight ship, but well organized, and I tell you, I was just blown away just to see what she's doing. So we can offer help to more kids. I definitely support this MOU.
Thank you. Thank you guys for your presentation. We really appreciate it.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
One of the other components I think that's also important about the relationship is the wraparound services that the Boys and Girls Club provide. So they don't just look at the child in the environment. They actually look to help the families, whether it's, access to food or job placement. And those are certain services that we don't have the bandwidth that they can assist. And so that was the thing that really memorialized the importance of having this type of relationship in our community and making sure we're not duplicating things and focusing on the things that we do exceptionally well and the things that they do exceptionally well. So there are a lot of other programs and a lot of other offerings now with this relationship. Should the board approve it, there will be co-marketing, co-branding opportunities where they would utilize our logo, we'll utilize their logo. So it really just bolsters what we have going on in our community. So we definitely appreciate the board's support as we move forward.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Lloyd Brown.
How you doing? I know you knew I was coming up. Anyway, I have a friend, I know the Boys and Girls Club, that's great. But I have a friend that told me that he has some kids that they have to practice outside of Tate and whatever. They're not allowed to come in the gym. He can't bring his kids in the gym, and these are things that he was trying to do. He worked with basketball players in the 3rd grade, I think the 5th grade, and he says the 10th grade. But he said he's not allowed to go in the gym anymore, in Tate Gym. They barred him from there. But he's been working. Okay, like I see the Boys and Girls Club, but when I was coming up, there wasn't no Boys and Girls Club, and we didn't need to go through this because there were people at the park supervising. They were like, I would call them role models. I knew I had a mother and I had a father, but there was a lot of kids that only had mothers. But you know what? There were a lot of grown-up people at these parks that we don't have now. I'm not putting down the Boys and Girls Club, but I mean, what happened to those parks, where you had like somebody to look up to, you had role models, when you took all that out, I mean, the Boys and Girls Club, she said 250 to whatever, but there are more kids out here than that. And I tell you like this, I see more than 250 kids walking around the street every day, smoking cigars and doing whatever. And like when I was coming up, like I say, the Boys and Girls Club wasn't there. My sister, she ran the park at this time. They had Cedar, and at our park, we had 250 people over there every day. And there wasn't no club, but we had a supervisor. We had Rock Calloway, we had Jose at the gym, and it's a lot of other people. And you know what? The kids who came there, like me, when I came there, I watched these other individuals who were playing basketball, so I wanted to do like them. So now in these parks, you don't have anybody in there. I mean, you were saying at Wells and Tate or whatever, but like Goodmark Park and all them places, you don't have supervision there. You need to bring it back. Because for one thing, when you got down to that park and you started acting stupid, Mr. Calloway gonna say something. And you learned to respect older people. You didn't have to have a father at home. They were there out at these parks. So, I mean, I understand the Boys and Girls Club, but like this one guy, he just want to know why he can't bring his people in the gym. He was on the news, I think about a week ago, where he was talking about these kids. He said they're 3rd grade, whatever. Anyway, some kids he got these basketball teams, but they don't allow him to come in the gym and practice. And okay, you saying that it'll help everybody in the community, so because he's not in the city, so that, or he's not in the Boys and Girls Club, that means that those kids that he got, they're gonna be left out the full, benefits of this situation. And thank you.
Thank you, Lloyd. Could you, Mr. Blankenship, could you speak with him about that? Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Councilperson Botel?
Yes.
Pro Tem Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Chair Lanier?
Yes. That is the end of our consent agenda. We have the next item, which is number 3. Madam Clerk?
Presentation on interim budget reports. Madam Chair, members of the board, there are no public comments on this item. The acceptance of public comments on this item is now closed.
Thank you. Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair, members of the board, I would like for Mr. Sherman, our Finance Director, to make the presentation this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Randy Sherman, City Finance Director. If you recall, back when the HCT was here to present the 2019 audit, they presented a number of findings. One of the findings was that the Finance Department should present interim financial reports to the council. So this is our first one. I probably will be back quarterly with these types of reports unless you desire to have them more frequently. The format may change over time as we learn what you're looking for. But tonight, we'll walk through. You should have a copy of this in front of you. Left one on each station. So what we have here, this is the general fund year-to-date revenues for June 30, 2021. And I will tell you, trying to get out June statements for July 7th meeting, that June is not fully cooked yet. But, we're presenting the June statements. I think in the future, we'll probably will come to the second meeting of the month, so we know that the month is closed. Let me just walk you through what's on the slide. We have our revenue categories. These are the same revenues that you would see in our financial statements. And then here we have the first set of numbers. That's June of 2021. Next to that is June of 2020, so you can compare, from year to year. The next column is the 2021 budget. Then we have the 2021 year-to-date actual, and then the percentage. So if you look at just across the blue line where it says 101 General Fund, the reports do total to the top. So at this point, for the General Fund, we have collected $71.9 million out of the $81.9 million budget. Last year at this point, remember we were in the middle of a pandemic, and through June we had collected $70.5 million. Looking on the expense side, again, we can give you more detail, less detail, as long as you, just tell us what you're looking for. But again, what we have here, we have each department and then each cost center under the department. Again, it's the same columns for the numbers, so you have June compared to June, and then you have the actual compared to the budget, both for 2020 and 2021. As you see here, there is everyone is under 100%. From June, you should be somewhere again around 75% of your operating budget. And then the rest of the general fund is on page 3. Now, you may see a cost center within a department, maybe over 100%, but their departments are aware of that, and they're in the process of making some line item transfers. On page 4, what we did is we listed out all of the revenues for the rest of, or for our enterprise funds. So again, at the top, you have the utility district, and we have the marina, solid waste, stormwater, and then parking at the bottom, which has nothing at this point. So again, you can go through same columns. If you look at, for example, at the utility district, Year-to-date, we've collected 72%, where last year at this point, we had actually collected 79%. The marina, again, you go through all of these, and again, there's no, the good news is at this point is there really are no red flags that we're seeing in any of these financial statements. The next slide, we have the expenses for those same enterprise funds. Again, you have the utility, marina, solid waste, stormwater, and parking. So again, you can see, again, utility's a good one. Year-to-date, we've spent 78% of the budget. Last year at this point, we had spent 79% of the budget. So they're, again, fairly consistent going year to year. Again, no red flags. You know, we talked about the utility district a couple of meetings ago. But again, they're plugging along. They will remain within budget. And then finally, we have a number of what we call internal service funds. These are the funds that really service the city itself rather than, you know, outside of the city. So you have IT, the insurance fund, and then fleet services. Again, same columns, work across, as you see here, these are the revenues. These funds are 100% funded on day one of every fiscal year. Okay, again, they're billing the other city departments. We fund that right up front in October, so that's why you see 100% of collected funds. And then on the expense side, again, you've got the comparison between the 2 years. And with that, I can take any questions or comments or suggestions for the next presentation.
Very good. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment for this item?
Madam Chair, members of the board, there are no public comments on this item.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead. You're recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Sherman, reserves. Do you foresee that we can put this in, I guess, whatever the reserves amounts are, I guess, which would be at a current point of time, probably at that June 30th date going forward?
I'm sorry, Councilman. I had
Reserves. I was asking about, could you put the balance of what our reserves are at a given time, such as this June 30th date going forward?
we can.
And
Yeah, we can
and
do that.
also, I guess, since you said this is going to be going forward, probably the second meeting in the month, this is my first time seeing it, so I guess it's good information. And then if I remember correctly, one of the findings from the audit report said this stuff will be readily online for not just us, but for the public as well?
It is. It's out there right now. The link is on the finance page, and we will be moving it over to the front page, so it'll be more visible and easier to find.
And it'll be updated quarterly, I imagine?
No, it's updated as transactions take place. So if
Daily?
I run payroll today, those payroll numbers will be in there tonight.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
Yes. Are there any other questions in regards to this presentation?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, why are we at 141% expenses in the general liability insurance risk management column?
That's going to be due to the number of claims and settlements you've had. You know, you see them on your council meeting to approve those settlements. So when we budget for the insurance fund, they always give us a number on how much we should be coming out of our reserves, because again, we keep a lot of reserves for every claim. So what that does, at the end of the year, we'll adjust that against the reserves.
Okay.
And then next year, we fund the reserves again and.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Presentation on financing of fire rescue stations 86 and 88. Madam Chair, members of the board, we do not have public comments on this item. The acceptance of public comments on this item is now closed.
Very good. Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair and members of the board, the presentation this evening is going to be done by a representative from PFM. The intent about this presentation is to gain perspective from the board as to how you would like for us to proceed. In the solicitation that we moved forward for Station 88, we contemplated a finance component, and so we have had the opportunity to provide PFM with the financing structure that is being proposed, and then looked at what options the city had as a result of the information. And so we are going to share with you that presentation, and then after the presentation is concluded, we would like some direction from the board as to how you wish to proceed related to the financing options for Fire Station 88, and we also incorporated the component necessary to fund Fire Station 86. If the board, and when the board does provide us with direction on both of these financing tools that are in front of you, then we would have subsequent community meetings with the impacted areas to ensure them about how we would mitigate some of the challenges associated with some of the sites. Obviously, we know Station 88 is moving forward, but Station 86 is on a site that is going to garner community input and feedback and some perspective. And so we did want to have the discussion with the board early on and then bring back whatever financing tool the board thinks is appropriate as we move through the process. So at this time, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Sergio from PFM.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Good evening, council members. Sergio Masvidal with PFM Financial Advisors. Thank you again for your time this evening. I will try to cover this at a pretty high level and then leave some time for questions at the end, if that's okay with everybody. As the manager indicated, we are talking about the financing alternatives for station number 86 and station 88 in comparison to the response you received from the private sector. So just a very high level, I'll start with the summary. One of the prior meetings you had, you established a very strong development team here to develop the stations. And that was a result of your design build RFP the city put out. A component of that RFP or response was a private sector financing option that they provided to you. At that meeting, it was requested of the finance team to go back and compare that option, the private sector financing, to what the city could alternatively do on its own. It's certainly, private sector financing can certainly be attractive to municipalities that don't have ready access to the markets, capital markets, or high credit ratings. However, in the city's case, as you're all aware, you do have this ability through your public improvement bond security lien. It's a AA- rating, which is a very strong rating, AAA being the highest, AA being a notch below that. So that's a very strong credit rating in today's market. You also have bonds outstanding on that lien, so it's a credit lien that the investors understand very well in the broader marketplace. And then finally, we really wanted to compare the cost effectiveness of that city self-financing versus the private option that was put forward to you. And I have a summary page in here that shows really the savings that the city would have by self-financing. It's about approximately $2 to $3 million on a net present value basis. It's $3 to $5 million on a gross basis over the term of the financing. So pretty significant numbers using the city's own financing mechanisms. The other important point, if I remember from that last meeting, was the time to fund. I think that was very important to City Council, making sure we can get these projects, shovels in the ground relatively quickly. Time to fund, again, as I mentioned, the city has a established credit, established investor presence. We think 6 to 8 weeks is about the time to fund there. So very similar to what the private sector has indicated they can do. Very quickly, as a refresher, I've presented these next two slides at prior meetings, just really giving you the broad spectrum of how P3s work, public-private partnerships. On the left-hand side, you have the public sector. On the right-hand side, you have the private. And then there's kind of this range in between, design, bid, build, all the way to a full asset sale or concession of an asset. Really what you're talking about is a design build, kind of right in the middle there. In addition to that, the capital methods of sourcing your financing also range from public sector financing all the way to private financing. I'll focus here on that last bullet. Typically, private sector financing is more expensive than what you can do on your own. This was also included in the presentation and the materials we received from the private response. They readily admit public sector financing will be more cost effective. However, they wanted to provide you with this option. That makes all the sense in the world. Getting to the core of the conversation here, we ran numbers comparing the private sector proposal you received, both for a 20-year and a 30-year term, compared to, under current market conditions, what the city could raise in their own financing. As you can see in the slide, and I know the table's a little bit busy, so I'll try to hit the high points. Your financing costs for the city definitely results in a cost less than 3%, anywhere from 2.2 to 2.9%, depending on that term, again, 20 to 30 years. Total savings, as I mentioned earlier, $3 to $5 million over the term of the financing, again, for the 20 and 30-year term. On a present value basis, that's anywhere from $2 to $3 million, present value in today's dollars. Of course, those savings are going to vary by year depending on the final structure that's recommended. And a couple other things I want to highlight here is you'll see in the columns in the table, on the far left, we have the special purpose entity proposal at a 30-year financing. The closing costs indicated there, and let me back up here, every number that we ran included the same cost for construction, all the same FF&E, same basic costs. The only differences are the closing costs, really, that were included there. And you can see the closing costs there in that last row where I have estimated COI, cost of issuance. For the special purpose vehicles, it's about $1.2 million. And for a city financing, it's about $250,000. So that's a big difference as well. And now I just wanted to wrap up here in conclusion with our considerations to move forward. I think the city really can best achieve the objectives that you wanted to at the outset by combining both of these. You can achieve your speed of delivery, a high quality project using design build method that you've laid out, and then merging that with your own cost of funds, which is the lowest cost of funds you can achieve in the market today. What else does that do? We believe by structuring this appropriately, probably a 20-year term here, you can preserve your financial flexibility for other projects that undoubtedly will come forward at the city, and also preserve your credit ratings. I think that maintaining a strong credit rating is something we certainly advocate for, and I know your finance director does, so we want to maintain that AA category rating, absolutely. And then as far as one thing the council said loud and clear, the timing of this. We don't want to delay the project by delaying the financing. Again, we can expedite the financing and do this very quickly in a 6 to 8 week window to have funds in hand. So from here to the next step, we'll bring financing documents to you at a meeting in July. We have July 21st right now penciled in. We would lock your borrowing rate about early to mid-August and then close on funds. That means funds in the bank for the city by the end of August. So timing, again, very quick. We can move forward here. So with that, I'll wrap up, say thank you for your time, and take any questions you might have.
Thank you. Are there any questions about this presentation?
Yes, Madam Chair. So
Yes.
can we go back to number 5, please?
Sure.
So I guess I want to make sure that we elaborate on, I don't want to use the word overextending, but if we were to finance ourselves, what that does to our actual ability to raise capital in the future if we have some other projects that may come up compared to us using the private market. And I believe the closing cost is line number, the last line.
Right.
City financing is 276 versus 291. And I want to make sure I understood. Did you say 6 to 8 weeks to financing in hand?
Correct.
Okay. As opposed to, wow, that's quite a bit of interest. But, I think it takes a little more analyzing this because, if we take the 30-year option, whether we decide to do, I guess the cost to close is 276, the interest is 19 million compared to 20 million, would that still be on, I guess that's a Randy Sherman question, but or even Mr. Evans, will that still be on our books if we chose to do the public-private partnership? Will that still be on our books as debt?
Yes, it would be.
Yeah, I can actually elaborate on that if you'd like, Councilman.
Yes, please.
So from the credit agency perspective, and public-private partnerships are nothing new, and they certainly have gained more traction over the years. From a credit agency perspective, even the auditors, what they found is, whether it's a publicly offered bond that the city finances or a long-term contract that you've entered into with a third party, a payment will be due. So they're counting that the same way on the city's books, if you will. So while it's technically maybe not on your balance sheet, every year you will have an obligation to make that payment. In this case, the case of the fire stations, it's a lease with a third party. If for whatever reason you defaulted on that lease and you didn't make a payment in a year, the fire stations, basically, you would lose the use and the access to those fire stations. So from a credit agency, from an auditing perspective, they're treated the same.
Follow-up.
That's a good question.
Go ahead.
So what really drives this huge disparity between the cost of doing private financing as opposed to the city going out for bonds? What drives that for the market purposes?
Sure. I don't want to go too far as to what drives the closing costs for the private sector. I'm not sure I'm completely prepared to speak to that because I don't know their funding mechanisms. Each private sector will have their own. However, I can tell you that certainly some of the costs that they embed in there are just going to be higher than what the public sector costs are, just by the virtue of city financing, municipal financing being around for over 100 years versus private sector financing being a little bit newer vehicle. There's just additional costs embedded in there. But that's only one factor here, right? That's the upfront cost of issuance. I would also, as you've already astutely pointed out, you have the difference in the interest. So it's really the cost of borrowing. When you're talking about a difference of 2.2% for a 20-year financing versus 3.06% versus a private financing, that's driving the difference in the interest cost.
Madam Chair, follow-up.
Go ahead.
Do you have, or was it in the proposal from Kaufman Lynn, their time frame for financing?
I believe in their proposal, and I'm going off memory, Mr. Sherman might remember better, I believe it was the same.
Okay, and last question, gosh, what was it? I can't recall. Okay, all right, that's it for now, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for the gentleman? Thank you, sir, for your presentation.
You're welcome, thank you.
And I want to see, can we have that slide provided for us?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
In regards to this presentation, staff is requesting direction as to how the board would wish to proceed. Obviously, based on the information that's contained in the presentation, staff's recommendation that we look to go to the bond market ourselves because we see that there is substantial cost savings and we can effectively close in the same amount of time and get the capital on hand to be able to move forward with the construction of both Fire Station 86 and 88. So staff is requesting, if it is the pleasure of the board to move forward with preparing the necessary loan documents to bring that back to you at a subsequent meeting, but we are asking for direction with this particular item so we can move through the process.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
does staff have a recommendation with regard to 20 versus 30 years?
Madam Chair, I'll defer to the financial advisors.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilperson. I think we would probably defer that decision, if that's okay with you. We do have to bring the financing documents, as the manager alluded to, a couple times before this council again. So we would probably come back to you with that term. Right now, I would say if you would say no more than 30 years, that would give us flexibility to see what the markets have done between now and then.
Question.
You're finished?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Motion, by the way.
Well, thank you for that. And that certainly is going to be a good point because you did mention the present value, and obviously if you're going to be extending an additional 10 years, I think certainly there's going to be some changes over a 10-year period of what that value amount is that you're getting financed. And also, my question that I couldn't recall first, so if Mr. Evans, or perhaps anyone that can answer this question, if we choose to go to the bond market ourselves, does that materially change the solicitation that we put out that would create any kind of perhaps
Madam Chair, if I may.
problems later?
Yes, go ahead.
With regards to the solicitation document, we have the language in there that we can take out that particular component. We did want to see if that was something that was going to render better results, but we do have the flexibility in the solicitation document, and the proposer their financier is Municipal Acquisition. We've been in conversations and contact with them and we were telling them that we were going to share with the board both options and be able to move forward accordingly. So that has been communicated in the document as well as in verbal and written communications with them throughout the onset of the project.
Thank you.
Okay, very good.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I make a motion that we use city financing for the design-build projects for the fire stations.
Second?
I'll second, and I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, I think we had some little short discussion on it, but where does that put us in terms of being able to do other projects? Will that tie us up?
So we had the discussion related to, based on the reimagined session and where city campus goes and what facilities, the desire would be to look to implement the fire assessment and pledge that revenue to be able to pay for the bond issuance. That $35 or $33 million, and if there is a revenue stream that's associated to pay that, provides us the flexibility to be able to move forward with the capital construction of a new City Hall campus. So we would look to bring forward, after the community conversations and the discussion, and bring back to the board.
Hold on a second. Repeat that again?
So the $35 million that you would get for the fire stations, to construct the 2 fire stations, you would need to have some type of revenue stream that would be pledged to be able to pay the debt service associated with the borrow. If you say that you're going to move forward with the fire assessment, which the board has given us direction to have community conversations about, if that revenue that's collected from the fire assessment goes exclusively to the debt issuance, to paying the debt issuance, which is our recommendation, then you still have the flexibility to go back to the market for a $50 to $75 million City Hall campus. The utility district has a separate set of funds and a separate credit rating and separate revenue that would be pledged for the $150 million borrow that we would look to move forward with. So you actually have different tranches of money. Plus, you have the $23 million from the sales tax that you have that would be put towards that City Hall campus. Then when the utility district comes online, and assuming we consolidate the public works and the utility district on the same site, you have the warehouse building that when we acquired it for $7 million. We've got an appraisal probably back in 2017 that it was about $10 million. If you appraise that same site again, it may be worth about $13 to $15 million. So you have that asset if you were to sell that and put that towards the City Hall campus. So there's a lot of layered funding that would go into it, but it is paramount that we look to have a revenue stream that is set aside for the purposes of moving forward with these fire stations, because if not, then it impedes your ability to be able to move as quickly as we'd like to move with regards to these stations.
Okay, thank you.
Got it. We have a motion on the floor? Second? Madam Clerk?
Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Councilperson Botel?
Yes.
Pro Tem Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Chair Lanier?
Yes. Thank you. Our next item, Madam Clerk?
Item number 5 was removed from the agenda. We're on to item number 6, presentation of the city's audit for the agenda reads 2018-2019, but it's supposed to read 2019-2020.
Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair and members of the board, this is the presentation by our audit firm. Mr. Harvey is online, I believe. Mr. Harvey, are you there?
Yes, we are.
All right. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Mr. Harvey and his audit firm to provide for the audit for this past year.
Thank you. Mr. Harvey?
Good afternoon, everyone. Roderick Harvey with HCT, Certified Public Accountants and Consultants. At this time, I would like to have Mr. Thomas Williams III, our audit manager, kick off our audit presentation.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. My name is Thomas Williams, as Mr. Harvey stated, Audit Manager, and we are pleased to present to you our audit results for the year ended September 30, 2020 audit. Our audit was completed, and we have issued an unmodified opinion, which means a clean.
Madam Chair, can we stop him because
It's a bit muddled, sir. We can barely make out what you're saying. Maybe it just needs to be a little clearer. We can hear you, but it's very muddled.
Okay, let me try something different then.
Use your computer instead of your earphones. Now we can't hear you. But if you use your computer microphone instead of your earphone microphone, we may can hear you a little bit more clearer. We cannot hear you at all now, sir.
Give us a second.
We can hear you, Mr. Harvey, but we can't hear your colleague.
Can everybody hear me now? Can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry for the technical difficulties.
That's okay, go ahead.
We are pleased to meet with you today to discuss the results of our audit of the City of Riviera Beach for year ended September 30, 2020. Our audit was conducted in accordance with the terms established in the engagement letter dated February 17th of 2021. At any point during this presentation, we would be more than happy to elaborate on anything we have covered thus far. Our audit was completed and we have issued an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements for the City of Riviera Beach on June 28th, 2021. Today, we will discuss our audit results and other required communications. We will present supplementary supporting slides and other required communications, as well as we will discuss the responsibilities of those charged with governance, with management of the city, and ourselves as your auditors. Our audit was completed and performed in accordance with the auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America and the standards applicable to the financial audits contained in government auditing standards issued by the Comptroller General of the United States and in accordance with Chapter 10.550 Rules of the Auditor General of the State of Florida. There were no changes to our audit plan, our risk assessment, and our planned audit strategy. We have issued an unmodified opinion on the following reports: our independent auditor's report, our independent auditor's report on internal controls over financial reporting and compliance, our independent auditor's report on compliance with each major program and on the internal controls and compliance over those major programs, our schedule of findings and question costs, our independent auditor's report on compliance with the requirements of section 218.415 of the Florida statutes, and our management letter in accordance with rules of the Auditor General. At this moment, there are no outstanding items for the audit ended September 30, 2020.
Hold on one second, sir. Can we see this on the screen?
You should be able to. I'm sharing my
Oh, I see.
screen. Are you able to see?
Yeah, we can't see it. Oh, I see. I see. We don't have a copy of this presentation. It's very difficult for us to see it small on the screen the way it's presented. But go ahead, sir.
Okay, sorry about that.
Let them send it because that's almost like.
Yeah. Can you guys send a copy of that to us right quick?
We can.
Send it to the city manager and he can send it to us? Because we really want to follow along, but we can't see it at all.
Okay, no
And
problem.
plus, the public wants to be able to look at it as well.
Okay.
Oh, they can see it?
Oh, I see. Yeah, up to the top, yeah. Well, I still need to see it. Yeah.
They can send it to Walter? Tell them to send it to Walter, or Walter put it up. Can Mr. Evans send it to Walter as well? And then can Walter put it up if he sends it to him? Or, yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
as soon as I get it, I'll send it over.
Give us a second, sir. I heard this presentation and it's very good, so I want the public to be able to see it as well as my colleagues.
Commissioner Lanier, we just sent it over. I sent it to the manager only. So
Very
he should
good.
have it in a few minutes.
He can send it to Walter. He can. Okay. Okay. Have you gotten
All
it?
right. Yes, just got it, just came.
Okay, very good. You just got yours?
Got it.
All right, yeah. I have mine as well. All right, we just received it in our email. You can go ahead and proceed with the presentation, sir.
Thank you very much.
What slide are you on?
We are on slide 4.
All right, very good.
And lastly, the significant audit accounting policies can be found in note 1 of the financial statements, are page 51. The following are significant accounting estimates that we identified during the course of our audit: the depreciation of the useful life of your capital assets, the fair market value of your investments, the fair market value of your pension and OPEB assets and liabilities, and the allowance for doubtful accounts in your accounts receivable. The following are significant risk and audit matters that we receive at the beginning of each audit to ensure that we look out and there's an unpredictability of our testing. We pay particular focus to management override of internal controls, as well as the revenue recognition. The following are new accounting pronouncements that were issued prior years that took effect in the current year. GASB 84, which is dealing with fiduciary activities. GASB 88, dealing with certain disclosures related to debt, including direct borrowing and direct placements. And GASB 90, dealing with majority equity interest. An amendment of GASB numbers 14 and 61. And none of these had any significant impact on the city's financial statements for the year ended September 30, 2020. There were no uncorrected misstatements noted during the year, as well as all adjusting entries noted had been made at the end of the year. And we do believe that there were no financial presentation or disclosure omissions in the financial statements. We did identify some control deficiencies, and we will discuss those starting on page 15 of this presentation. We did not identify any related party issues to be noted, and we do believe that all the related parties transactions have been noted in the financial statements. And this last bullet point is just to note that as your auditors, we have an obligation, if you're going to use these financial statements and other public offerings, we have an obligation to read it to ensure that the financial information that is provided is correct. But outside of that, we do not have any other obligations to perform any other procedures or corroborate any other information in said document. There are a lot of bullet points here. I just want to point out to a couple of them. Our subsequent events, you can find that on note 20 of the financial statements, as well as the significant findings and the update on last year's findings. We will go through those on slides 15 to 25. And lastly, for this part of the presentation, we do believe in our professional judgment that we are independent with respects to the city as termed and defined by professional standards. And with that, I will turn over to our engagement partner, Mr. Roger Harvey.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Chairperson Pro Tem, council members. Hello to the city manager, deputy manager, city attorney, city clerk. My name is Roderick Harvey, partner with HCT. We will spend the next moments going through the items listed below: financial reporting, revenues, expenditures, capital assets, receivable, and long-term debt. Financial reporting is a process by which we want to ensure through our testing that the city is employing GAAP as it's measured. And so now we will look at several of the items as relates to the FY 2020 CAFR for the city of Riviera Beach. Revenues totaled $135.9 million for the year 2020 compared to $134.9 million for the same period of 2019. The major revenue sources were constant. We selected a sample of transactions and tested those revenue transactions for existence, accuracy, and cutoff, and of course, the presentation of those revenues. As we move forward to expenses, $129.8 million for the period 2020 as compared to $116.7 million for the period 2019. The increase can be mainly attributable to increases in general government and public safety. Again, we looked at the major transactions for expenditures. With our testing, we looked at completeness. We also looked at accuracy, cutoff, and the presentation of those expenditures in the period of 2020. Moving forward to capital assets, the final balance for capital assets, $229 million for September 2020 as compared to $216.8 million for 2019. The increase of $12.6 million is primarily due to CIP or construction in progress. Looking at receivables, the balance of $12.6 million for 2020 as compared to $11 million for 2019. Yes, we confirmed those balances for the period ended 2020. Moving on to long-term debt, the balance of $174.8 million is the ending balance for 2020 as compared to $173.9 million for the same period ended 2019. The increase was primarily due to refunding of CRA notes, Series 2020A and Series 2020B, and we did confirm those balances with independent third parties. We have a responsibility as your auditors, the entity-wide auditors for the city of Riviera Beach, is to express our opinion. We also evaluate the internal control environment, although we don't express an opinion on the internal control environment. I want to spend a few minutes and talk about the technical terms of a deficiency. A deficiency is an internal control matter in the design or operation of a control that does not allow management or employees in the normal course of performing their assigned functions to prevent, detect a misstatement on a timely basis. Timely basis is around 30 to 40 days. If we look at the two levels of deficiency, the lower level is a significant deficiency, and I will just summarize this type of deficiency is less severe than a material weakness, yet important enough to merit attention to those charged with governance. If we move to the highest level of a deficiency, which is a material weakness, I would just summarize that this is the reasonable possibility that a material misstatement in the entity's financial statements will not be prevented, nor detected or corrected again on a timely basis, again defining timely basis as within 30 to 45 days. We will now spend a little time going over the prior year findings. Please note that as your auditors or any auditor, we must report on the status of our comments or those comments provided in the last report. And so it is our way to report to you the elected officials, appointed officials, what has been done to clear those items. So as we look at prior finding, again from 2019, this is 001, non-compliance as it relates to the reporting. That comment was fully implemented. We also had our finding in 2019, 002, that related to formal employee evaluations. That management comment from last year was not implemented. It does have a target date of June 2021. Moving forward to deficiency 003, which deals with Parks and Recreation should not receive cash directly from rental facility clients. We evaluated that finding as not implemented. It does have an implementation date of June 2021. Moving forward to prior finding 004, which talks about the Internal Audit Department should report directly to the mayor and the commission. We reviewed that finding and noted it as not implemented, but it does have a target date of June 2021. I also believe in our wrap up, we noted that that item is set to come before the commission here soon. So we are aware of that. But again, when we reviewed, it was not buttoned up. Moving forward to management comment 005, employees should be trained and informed on all potential cyber attacks. We noted this one as implemented. Moving forward to 006, the finance department should perform monthly or quarter end close reporting. We did note that as partially implemented. I do want to say I was very happy to see the presentation tonight, and will say good job to Mr. Sherman and the finance team. Moving on to prior finding 007, which dealt with the HR file review. We reviewed that and noted it as partially implemented. I do want to say that the HR department has done a good job in moving this ball forward with the resources and the people there. And so we are hopeful that that process of progress will continue, as we did spend good time with HR and was glad to see some positive movement as relates to that. Dealing with comment 008, the legal department selecting various firms. We reviewed that and noted it as not implemented. Moving forward to, again, 2019-009, the procurement department should include a notice of award and a notice to proceed. We reviewed this item and noted it as fully implemented. And then comment 2010 deals with the police department should not receive cash directly for rental facilities, from rental facilities clients before, during, and after an event. We noted that as not implemented, but it does have a target implementation date of June 2021. Again, 01111, which deals with the district, utility district time tracking. We reviewed that and noted it is not implemented, but it does have a target date of June 21. Moving forward to prior comment 012, purchase card usage by employees and elected officials. We noted this one is not implemented. Again, it has a target date for 2022. Moving forward to prior comment 013, dealing with reporting to the commission. Again, we know that this is not implemented, but again, we've seen that progress is happening even today. And then also 2014, contract copies, we reviewed this prior finding and noted it also as not implemented. During our audits for the current year, we performed and audited various sections and functions. And as a result of our audit, we have several findings in the current year to put forward. And so I will go through these findings, hopefully at a medium level. I don't want to spend too much time, but I do want to give enough time to it so that it is put forward. Our finding number one relates to the city should require the database administrator position to report to the IT director or to the city manager. We made that recommendation. There is a response. The city concurs with this finding and the related recommendation in that security of all systems should be centrally administered by the IT department. city administration and IT have budgeted for a position within IT to assume security roles, which also includes Tyler Application Security, In addition, we concur with the criteria above. The operations member and key persons should be segregated from any distinct department of the municipal government. Moving forward to current year finding number 2, which deals with the city should require grant agreements be subject to audit by the internal audit department. We made our recommendation. There is a response. The Office of the Internal Auditor's audit plan is risk-based, and thus current audits are aimed at certain areas which are considered high risk. The office will consider the risk grants to be audited based on the plan and availability of staffing. Moving on to our current year finding number 3, the city should require candidate files and documents to be maintained in a locked file cabinet in the city clerk's office. We made our recommendation. In response to the discussion with HCT, the Office of the City Clerk relocated candidates for elected office files required to be maintained by the Florida Division of Elections to the vault located within the office. In addition, a log was created for staff to complete upon accessing the files. A quick short note, we did have a good discussion with the clerk. We did subsequently see that log, and so we feel that progress has already been made in this area as relates to the office of the clerk. Moving forward to 004, the Parks and Recreation Department should maintain cash or have surprise cash counts. We made our recommendation as such. The city concurs with this finding and a related recommendation. Cash handling policy requires for quarterly spot audits. Since March 2020, Parks has not received any cash, but upon kicking back up in operations, they will also resume the quarterly audits. Our comment number 5 deals with Parks and Recs, and they should have the ability to automate the supplies and maintain a safeguard against any unauthorized use of those supplies. Again, we made our recommendation. There's a response from management. The city is aware of the condition and is currently taking corrective actions. An inventory policy is being developed, which will guide staff in managing inventory and small tools citywide. In addition, Tyler includes an inventory module, which will provide additional benefits. Our comment number 6 deals with the procurement department should seek and obtain a written memo or letter of legal sufficiency. We made our recommendation. The city responded. The city disagrees with this finding and the related recommendation. It is overly burdensome for the legal department to review every solicitation document produced by the procurement department. The legal department will create standardized documents, a more efficient use of its time, which should be adopted by the procurement department. Moving on to our current year comment 7, which deals with the selection of old vehicles being placed for sale. We made our recommendation and the response from management. The city is aware of the condition and is currently taking corrective actions. The fleet vehicle and equipment replacement policy is being developed, which should include criteria for identifying vehicles to be surplused. Our last comment, which is noted as a material weakness, deals with the lack of internal controls over legal expenditures. We made our recommendation. We recommend the city attorney sign an initial on invoices. There is a response. The city concurs with the finding and the related recommendation that the city attorney should initial or sign each law firm's invoice as proof of review and approval. Departments will be reminded that all invoices must be approved by the Office of the City Attorney for review and approval. Since March 2021, the legal department requires that every invoice presented for payment to either the insurance carrier or the finance department be accompanied by a cover sheet. The legal department will enforce this new control going forward. As an add-on, we did have a good discussion with the city attorney. We are aware that there were some previous bumps in the road I feel comfortable that going forward, these things will be addressed, and we were able to get an understanding of why and how some of the things were noted. And so we feel positive about the progress that should be made as relates to the office of the city attorney. We want to spend the last few minutes talking about the responsibilities in three areas: the responsibility of management, the responsibility of us as your auditors, and the responsibility of the elected officials. Management is responsible for the fair presentation of the financial statements. Management is responsible for the design, implementation, and maintenance of the internal control environment. Management is also responsible to provide the auditor, us, with access to information that is relevant, access to persons, and also unrestricted access to, within the entity, to things we may ask for. The city commission is responsible for the oversight of the financial reporting process and the internal controls, and oversight of the establishment and maintenance of the management of programs and control designed to prevent, deter, and detect fraud. I want to now jump to some of the HCT responsibilities. Again, we are responsible for issuing an opinion. We are also responsible or held responsible to ensure that our audit is performed within GAAS, generally accepted auditing standards. And again, this is a cadre list of responsibilities. I'll just highlight a few. We are responsible for communicating significant matters on the financial statements in our professional judgment. We are also responsible for communicating if we suspect or identify non-compliance with laws and regulations, unless those matters are clearly inconsequential. We are also responsible for communicating if we have identified or suspect fraud involving management employees who have significant roles or others when we think that those things may materially affect the financial statements. And so at this time, we will turn it back over to you. And if the time allows, we will do our very, very best to answer any questions you may have of us. Again, we want to say thank you for the opportunity to serve. We have performed 2 audits pretty back to back for the city. And so we believe that everybody has worked in good judgment and good effort to get us to this place. And so we will answer questions as best as we can.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead, you
I'm
recognize.
sorry, it looks as if you skipped prior year finding number 4, management comment, the Office of Internal Audit should report directly to the Mayor and City Commission. I just have a question about that. Is that something that's actually going to happen? It says target implementation date, June 2021. I guess that's a question for Mr. Evans.
Madam Chair, he did state that particular item. There was an ordinance that came before the board that allows for a clear delineation of duties and responsibilities. The auditor does still report in the ordinance, still does report to the manager, but has the report structure added into it of the audit committee, as well as providing information to the city council if there is any issues. So the modifications have been made and tweaked, and the board has moved forward with that particular ordinance.
Thank you.
Very good. Yes, you're recognized.
Thank you. To follow up, the question was, Mr. Evans, the auditor does not report to the commission or to the board. The auditor still reports to the manager. That's correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Members, if I can have your attention, is Mr. Blankenship here still? Or, well, I think we'll take, I want to go back to 2 things because I'm a little confused. If we can go back, Mr. Harvey, to page 16 of your slide from the 2019-003 finding related to Parks and Rec cash handling, and then also number 23. It seems like they're counterintuitive.
What pages?
It's on the slide, the page is number 16.
16.
Finding from 2019-003 says that
That's page 17.
should not accept cash, and then 2020 finding number 4 says that finance should do surprise inspections to check the cash count. So I'm not exactly sure which one I'm understanding or if I'm even understanding that correctly, but that seems counter that in 19 you said that we shouldn't accept cash. In fact, I remember specifically that Mr. Sherman said we'll be implementing kiosks, but in 2020, now you're suggesting that finance does surprise visits to, I guess, basically verify the cash counts. So can you elaborate on that? Either, I guess that would be the external auditor?
Yes, I can. Thank you for making that note, and I see where it could provide some a layer of dust. So as it relates to our prior year finding, and I'm open to being corrected, that finding specifically relates to the rental facility clients. From my understanding and from my interview with the director, Mr. Blankenship, there was a period, or may still be a period, in which folks could rent facilities of the city, and those folks would pay, or citizens would pay cash at that time for that rental. And so that's what we wanted to move the city, or suggest. All we can do is audit and report. And so we wanted to report or suggest a move away from that policy of where cash was being given by citizens for rental. As it relates to our current year finding, from our understanding, again, from interviews with the director, and I believe from the Parks and Rec director, and I believe from my interview with finance, is as the summer programs begin to kick back in as we come out of COVID, then those programs will pay the registration fees and different things. That will be done at Barracuda Bay. Also, the aquatic facilities will be used, and those payments will come into Barracuda Bay. And so what we are reporting to the elected officials and the appointed officials is that we believe that cash from operations should be spot audited or subject to surprise audits, so that we can ensure or provide a safety mechanism for folks to maintain good cash draws as we, the city, move forward and does operations as we come out of COVID. If I'm incorrect, I would love to have someone help me to understand a little better. But I think that's what we are reporting on.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
So I see Mr. Evans stepped out, but perhaps Mr. Sherman, I don't know if you're aware, but do you know when we'll have fully implemented the kiosks? I did see it over at Parks and Rec, where we'll be at that point of not accepting cash payments. And I guess if cash payments are accepted, then they'll be through the kiosk, but that there will be no actual person in Parks and Rec handling cash.
Yeah, Randy Sherman, Finance Director. Correct. The kiosk is there. It's available. It's usable. I don't know if any payments have even gone through it. I haven't seen any go through it yet for that process. They also will have online payment capability. Again, so people don't necessarily have to come down. They can use a credit card or an e-check. But rather than hand the cash to a Parks employee, they will actually pay it into the kiosk, and then their receipt is what the Parks employee will receive. And then that way we can reconcile what's in the kiosk to what's in the system as far as registration.
Follow up.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Sherman, just so I'm clear, I think what has been pointed out that in 2019 we've resolved that issue by installing these kiosks, and there won't be a need going forward to have surprise cash counts by finance.
I mean, just the way parks operate. I mean, if they run a football game and they take ticket revenue, people are going to come in and pay cash. You know, folks at Barracuda Bay, they're buying their soda and whatnot. There'll be some cash. But you're right, the volume won't be there as it was before.
Okay. I have some other questions on some other findings, Madam Chair.
All right, go ahead.
So I want to bring to the members' attention, I think it's on slide number 24 and 25, related to procurement department and legal sufficiency letters. I actually asked Ms. Nguyen this question. So, Ms. Nguyen, is your opinion that these legal sufficiency letters, or I guess what has been recommended by your department, that we create standardized documents, will that achieve the satisfaction a RFP being legally sufficient?
It should, because when the documents are standardized, the departments the procurement department specifically would only plug in certain information. Everything else, all the other standard terms would stay the same.
Okay, and
If they were to change it, then they should run that by legal.
in a perfect situation. But, you know, I guess when I think about some of the RFPs that I've read, we have things about drug-free workplace, anti-discrimination policies, folks that have, perhaps vendors that have been on the convicted vendor list. I mean, there's a number of, every year, legislative changes. But, you know, I certainly, you know, I don't want to make this more, I guess, arduous in the process, but quite frankly, we've seen this before where, you know, there just could be some ambiguity, and even if it's not for legal sufficiency, I think, and I don't know the process, and I'd rather take that offline with the manager of that department, what exactly, who all sees the solicitation before it goes out, but there are sometimes, I think, where legal should be at least having a cursory review of some of these items, because, you know, more often than not, I mean, these are 75-page documents. I mean, the audit itself was 280, so can you imagine if we had a solicitation like we did with the ITB? I just want to make sure that we don't miss anything. And to the point that I brought up earlier, the question about, does this take us from a material change if we do our own financing compared to what the ITB says? So that's why I certainly don't think it's a bad idea to have a legal review, if not sign off on it. And then one last finding I wanted to question, Madam Chair, that was the last one, I believe. So, and I guess I got a different understanding of this when I read this the second time. So finding number 008 from fiscal year 2020 says that the city attorney's office or the law firm should be signing off or initialing as to the services provided on the invoice. And that's not speaking from your department, is it, Ms. Nguyen? That's speaking for other departments that engage outside counsel?
Well, that was where part of the problem occurred, Mr. McCoy. At one point, there were some departments that were engaging their own legal counsel. And once we discovered that, and the only way we discovered it is because the bills were coming to legal. Once we discovered that, that's when we had the assistance of the manager to, you know, let departments know that that was improper. That, you know, according to the procurement code, the legal department is the only department that can procure legal services. So again, we didn't know that that's a couple, not a lot of departments, maybe 2 departments, were procuring their own legal services. And I'll go on and address the rest of that.
Ms. Nguyen, I'm going to have to stop you right there. Sorry, but we have public comment that starts at 7:30, time certain.
Okay.
And we have to, we can pick this up after public comment. I'm hoping that Mr. Harvey and his team can stay until public comment is completed so that we can get back to this, but we have a time certain with public comment that we must abide by for the public.
Yes, we can stay.
Thank you so much, sir. Please be reminded, the City Council has adopted rules of decorum, public conduct during official meetings, which has been posted at the front desk. In an effort to preserve order, if any of the rules are not adhered to, the council chair may have any disruptive speaker or attendee removed from the podium, from the meeting, and/or the building if necessary. Please govern yourselves accordingly. Public comment shall begin at 7:30 unless there is no further business of the city, which in the event it shall begin sooner. In addition, if any item is being considered at 7:30, then comments from the public shall begin immediately after the item has been concluded. Any person who would like to speak during public comments, please fill out a public comment card at the front desk and give it to the staff before the public comment section is announced. Madam Clerk.
Madam Chair, members of the board, the acceptance of public comment cards for this particular section of the agenda is now closed. Lloyd Brown, Erica Davis, Bonnie Larson.
Hello, you lucky it ain't Thursday, because I would have been gone because the game come on. But I just want to say, you know, I was listening to Larson, or the guy talk about this think about it, if you call up so many times, you'll become a nuisance or something like that. Well, turn it over to the sheriff department then. And then another thing, I mean, you can't say no because I'm speaking. And another thing, let me tell you like this. If you don't have jobs in the neighborhood, there's going to be a lot of problems. If you got jobs, you won't have violence. You won't have all these people calling you up. So you can't, when you go with that talking about 5 times, you're going to have that. I know, for one thing, in my neighborhood, I done seen people call a whole lot. So you directing that. That's mainly targeting blacks who are unemployed. Because you say these stores call in because you know what? Who cater these stores? Only blacks, mostly blacks. So like with this, charging somebody $500 or saying you'll become a nuisance, that's crazy. That really is crazy. Because how many of those guys out there got $500? None. I mean, not that I know of. And another thing, okay, you know, like with the code enforcement, I'm going on strike until they move those boats from down there. And I think everybody who hear me out there, you should go on strike. All those things they send you in the mail talking about you got problems in your yard, this and that, take a picture of those boats down there on Obama and 15. And when you do take down that thing they got for you saying, oh, we finding you because you got this, take that down there with those pictures of those boats and drop it on their desk. That's what I did. I took the pictures of those boats down there. Now the man got the Titanic down there he's tearing up. And the code enforcement, you need to just get rid of the code enforcement. If they can't be fair, that don't mean anything. You worse than the KKK. Because for one thing, you're only looking at the people who live in the city, right? Okay, you got people who got apartments. Let me tell you something, there's rental. And then you got Stony Brook. So if any of you council members got property out there you renting, you want to keep our minds on Stony Brook, but you're not going to look at your properties. I think all y'all council members who got property, you should bring pictures of your property in here so that we can see them and see, oh, how they are. Because for one thing, I can't say everything I want to say here, and I don't have a page on Facebook like people say, because I don't own the Facebook, but I do put comments on there. So if you want to hear some more of what I got to say about the city, just look for Lloyd Brown on Facebook. And I'm not saying this because I don't want you to come back and say, oh, I disagree or I don't agree. I don't really care about that. But just listen to what I have to say and you might agree.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Erica Davis, Bonnie Larson, Bessie Brown.
Erica Davis, Riviera Beach. I just want to compliment the staff and Mr. Evans for the grand opening of the library. It was wonderful. And I do appreciate the vision that you have for the library. And also, they do offer programs at the library for jobs, certificates, and everything if you need one. We offer a lot of things for the residents. They just don't take the opportunity to receive them. Another thing, this city is moving forward regardless to what anybody else says about it. We have some innovative people with good vision for this city. Either you're going to be on the boat or you're going to be in the ocean sinking. Second of all, we would like to have a charrette for the marina project since we had a very good workshop for the other projects that we're having. So we would like to have a charrette to revisit the Marina 2 project so we can have our input on how much money we're spending, what they're doing with it, and everything like that as well. And another thing, these fireworks are out of control. They're scaring the babies and the animals. And we need to find a way to control this because it's like all day, all night for 3 weeks, these fireworks have been booming, booming, even today. So we need to find a way to clear that up. So if anybody else has anything to say about the city of Riviera Beach in a negative manner, get on board and learn something. And you'll stop saying what you're saying about the city because we're moving forward regardless to what everybody else has negative to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Bonnie Larson, Bessie Brown, Cindy March.
Ms. Larson, it's very good to see you.
Sorry, what?
It's very good to see you.
Oh, it's good to be back. If I could have been here, I would have. That'll come up in my discussion. Okay, she just talked about the library. Actually, I forgot about the opening of the library. But what I'm thinking is, now I see where it is, and there's going to be another opening apparently in the fall. If we could move the signs that say library that away, and it's pointing towards our current city hall, let's have them moved so they point to the new library. I passed by a lot, the old Walgreens, which is now going to become our fire station. That thing is moving along. Over the years, we have had so many visions, so many plans, so many consultants. We pay. Nothing happens. Go look at that Walgreens now. It's almost perfectly flat. We're going to get that fire station out there because we have someone now, first time in years and years and years that we've ever had a city manager who's got not only the education, but the experience, the know-how, the vision to make things happen in this city. We've just wasted our money for years and years and years. The most important thing is having the right person in the right job. We've got it now, so let's use him. I'm not saying abuse him. I'm saying use him for his knowledge, for his expertise, and let's get the city going. Kudos to our fire department when they put out that fire at Thrift Shop on 28th and Broadway. That thing went on until the last flame I saw was 11:15, and it started about 7:30. There were other fire departments here. If we could name those, that would be wonderful because they came to help us. Those guys did an awesome job. You should have seen them up there in the bucket trucks. I didn't know we had that much water in the city. They poured and poured and poured on there. It never touched. There's a little strip shopping center next to it. I went over to look. Flames never got over there. They did not allow flames to go off that property. Now my question is, what is that owner doing? He lives in Belle Glade. Who put up the fence? Riviera Beach put up the fence. What's he doing? Why wasn't he here that night or the next morning to do something at that property? And what's happening on that? I'm running out of time already. Okay, some updates please on, oh, now I don't have my paper. The barbecue down at the former Spanish Course, I thought that was supposed to be a temporary thing. Could we have an update on that? Report on the former Marine Academy, update on that. And the company. Oh, they're talking about a lot of companies have moved out of Riviera Beach over the year. Reverend Burrs mentioned several of them the other night. He was on the board. So we need to do an exit interview if we're not doing it. Why are these companies moving out? I know why some of them moved out, but we need to find out so that those things are corrected and we keep companies here rather than letting them move out of the city. That's not enough time.
Thank you, Ms. Larson.
Well, I'll talk to you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bessie Brown, Cindy March, Alexandria Witt.
Good evening. I'm Bessie Brown. I'd like to I'd like to ask for a copy of the presentation for Fire Station 88 and 86, and I'd like to know which one is 88 and which one is 86. I'd really like to know that. And I'd like to have a copy of the presentation for the audit, because on the agenda you have the audit for 2018 and 2019. You have it on here for 2018 and 2019, and it's actually for 2019 and 2020. So I'd like to have a copy of that. And I don't know. I went to 3 of the reimagines, and my question was about the wells. I'd like to know when is the time is to be selected to remove wells, because wells is a voting place, and I'd like to know when are they going to tear it down or move it or what, because that's a voting place. That's a real concern of mine. And the Reimagine only had about 45 people, 30 to 45 people making decisions for this entire city, and I think that's a little sad. That's a little sad, a lot sad. Because we have all these people in Riviera Beach, and we only had 30 to 35 people making decisions, and I don't think that's fair to the rest of the citizens in the city of Riviera Beach. And surely changes are being made, but changes are being made at the expense of not involving the entire citizens, all of the citizens in the city of Riviera Beach. And that plan was implemented in 2015. And now it's all the glory now, but basically it was implemented in 2015 by another council. And I know all of you, and I know all of you know about it. But basically, it wasn't. They all just had a big problem with it. Now you just bring something together for 4 weeks, and it's all great. That is not how you do business.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Cindy March, Alexandra Witt, Doretta Polk.
Hi, first of all, I want to thank you for my water bill. It was accurate, and I'm glad it was. Number two, I went to 2 of the town hall meetings, and my hypothetical question was to Evans was, if you're going to make this temporary over there to Wells, how much is going to cost the taxpayers to make something temporary, and then you move it to a permanent spot? I think that's a lot of wasted money. You know, if you're going to move something or you're going to reconstruct something, go ahead and make it permanent and be through with it. You know, keep relocating. And just like Ms. Brown said, people already don't get out and vote. Why would you move that main space where people come and vote at? That's not right. That's not right for the kids who playing football, basketball, or what have you. Number 3, I'm so sick of y'all talking about, I'm so sick of this individual talking about keep moving this city forward or sink. The city of Riviera Beach not going to sink. The individuals who run in the city of Riviera Beach going to sink. If they keep on making it divided, there's nothing going on the west side. Nothing. I see you all have a garden. Next thing I know, Singer Island had their own garden. Come on, this one city. When are we going to stop praising one person that's a manager? We in this together. We're going to have to first find unity before we can even move to a flat platform. Think about West Palm, how they cater to certain people. B.B. King, Macy's stores, Lane Bryant. You know how much money it costs to build that? And not one of them businesses are open right now today because they cater to a certain individual. We grew up here in the city. I live in the city. So we need to do better. There's no such thing as drowning. The only ones who's going to drown, who's not getting up, advocating for what's right for the east, west, north, and south side of Riviera Beach. Because this is a city where you can live, play, and work and have fun. But everybody got to have their share. Stop putting all the revenue on the east side of town. Come over there on the west side. We voted for you all. And you all just don't disappointed us. And it's not that we being bullies and gangsters. We don't go on social media throwing rocks and hiding their hand. Go look at my page. It's my name. It's my name. Don't come at me. Come to me. I'm not a bully. I'm not a gangster. But I will advocate for people. Instead of you doing these town halls, put a newsletter on these people's doors. Knock on these residents' doors. These are people that put you in office. And you all have been disappointed people from year after year. In 2015, what y'all trying to do, it was already in place. It started saying the lipstick on a pig and them people, those people, they people. Y'all got one certain individual want his name on everything like Trump. So y'all feel like it wasn't a good idea.
Thank you, Ms. March. Alexandra Witt, Doretta Polk, Mary Brown.
I have some paper things to hand out to the commission.
You can give them to the clerk.
Mr. Evans, the city manager, and the mayor. I only have a certain amount, so if you could pass them down, I would greatly appreciate it. Actually, I need to hold on to one.
Ma'am, your time is running, so you. All right, very good.
Hi, Alexandra Witt. I live on 24th Street in Riviera. That's called Lakeview Park. It encompasses 22nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. For years, it was run down because the big plans for the city were eminent domain. Well, no more eminent domain. Houses are selling in there, 2-bedroom, 1 baths, 2 of them, right near my house, $315,000 and $325,000. We have a situation at the end of the street. Mr. Evans has been helping us with it, but we were at a meeting last week, and I want everybody to be aware of this here because he made a comment of, I have a certain amount of money to spend before I have to go before the board. So here I am going before you all. Please take a look at this. And just know that there's 6 or 8 sailboats out there, and there's 172 homes where we live. So to be worried about 6 or 8 sailboat people coming in and ruining our area and not taking care of the dead end of 24th Street and making it an access where water, where it has always been for 70 years, there is, and we have pictures of, pre-existing dock there. I mean, nobody wants a dock. They just want to have access. But, you know, Mr. Evans said there wasn't that much money to do that. And we don't want to just say, well, because he had said he promised that he wouldn't do anything except what he suggested was an 18-inch wall. But the next thing you know, there's going to be a railing up. And this all started because a gentleman on the end of the street illegally permitted with the city of Riviera Beach to put a wall up. And a neighbor of mine came to me, and between the two of us, we got it stopped because he's very rude to everybody who plays out in the sandbar. All the kids go there, kayaks, grandparents, everything. I've been there 22 years. I've owned 4 homes. I own 2 now, right there on those streets. We all love that area, but that area, if you could take a look at these pictures and pay attention to what's going on, and please make an access. You do not have to call the environmentalist. You can put it, you can find a way. I know you can. I can buy a chainsaw. I told Mr. Evans that. But you can find a way to make that an access. If you have to put a gate up and hand everybody keys, do it. But if not, just don't ignore us. Just because 2 people on the dead end of the street illegally tried to permit and raised a big stink about the bad people on the sailboats, which, first off, they're not bad. They're all nice. We all know them. So please, please read these. Please look at these. I would like to make sure the mayor gets one. I would like to make sure the city manager gets one as well. So please take a look at it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Doretta Polk, Mary Brown.
Good evening. My name is Doretta Polk, and I just want to say hats off to our city manager who brought this program, and it was well advertised to all the citizens of Riviera Beach. There are many citizens of Riviera Beach who are senior citizens and do not come out at night because of their possibly eyesight and the driving situation. But they do look at it on Channel 18, which Walter is doing a marvelous job. He brought into Mr. Nottingham, who is excellent and outstanding job that he did, letting us know about reimagining Riviera Beach. And he brought in different options, A, B, and C. We did a workshop each night, each 3 nights, and we separated in sections, and it was marvelous. And we did vote on option C, but that could be also, also challenged and also, reevaluated, but it would be on Broadway here, and I think it was excellent program. I can't talk enough about the opening of the brand new library. Excellent. The Youth Empowerment Director, Mrs. Grimsley, we had a tour of the entire place, and the inside, you wouldn't think it was as large as it is, but it was beautiful. The colors, the neon colors are excellent for the children. They had smiles on their face. They were so excited, and they have a STEM room, and they have a testing lab that you can get certifications for SATs, ACTs, and GP. Also, they have an aquatic room and a visual reality room, which I thought was very excellent. And they also have a children's library with a pen book shapes. Beautiful, beautiful colors. The food trucks was absolutely wonderful. Mr. Forrest's food truck was very tasty and delicious. And I think we all had a wonderful time. And we are moving. We are moving. And at the workshop, there was a gentleman who said that the building of that city hall should never have been built like that. The contractors said that the type of bricks will not hold up, and it will have water intrusion. And they told the council, they did not listen, and this is where we are. We have somebody here now that's going to carry us through and stop this. Get on board. Everyone get on board. Everyone. And if you don't believe me, just look at the tapes.
Yes.
And I
Thank you so much, Ms. Paul.
And welcome back, Mr. Councilwoman Bozier.
Thank you.
Mary Brown.
Hi, good evening, Ms. Mary Brown, Riviera Beach. First of all, I would just like to say, a plan is a plan only when it is executed and built upon with additional ideas and the thought process. Ms. Brown have sat through every plan, every charrette it is. It has always navigated building on, building on, building on. Because why? We have different ideas. We're in different settings. So when we talk about somebody playing, no, no, no. It is the entire residence plan. When we talk about coming out, this is the way it has always been. Those that seek to get up and be participators, they will. They will. The majority always rule. You will never please everybody because we live in a real world. Mr. Jonathan Evans and his staff, thank you all for that beautiful library. Ms. Deidre Jacob and Ms. Valerie Grimsley for stepping out on that ingenuity with that decor and those murals, and the library staff for all of your hard work and stuff. And every entity in the city here that came together, because this is who we are. We come together to get the job done, and this is what made that masterpiece over there at that library. I was just like a little kid, and I cried. Yeah, Miss Brown cried. Miss Brown cried because I got the toy that I've always wanted. So I was a big baby, and it was well worth it. Thank you, contractor Mr. Randolph, for such an excellent job. Electrical contractor Mr. Brown, for the work and stuff that they have done. We had dignitaries there. Tina, Mr. Sherman's wife, we had a good time. Others, we had a good time over there as well. So you see, it's in a good location because while all of our schools around that area, it's in walking distance, and it is on the west side. We are building up the west side. So when we hear all of this here, different varieties of comments, that's okay. But we must move on. We must move on. When we will move on. We will move on. This is what achievement looks like. This is what progress looks like. This is what the unified body that stays together and work together. This is what we do. We lay aside all of those differences there because we use that easel to splash that oil on that canvas there. And that's what we become achievers.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Madam Chair, members of the board, that completes public comment.
Is that it? Mr. Evans, could you respond to some of the comments or questions, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair. With regards to the signage for the new library, we can get that modified and make sure that it is pointing persons in the right direction. The building that the CRA owns, 2600 Broadway, that is actually going to be the next facility that's demolished after Walgreens is complete. And then after that, they'll move to the City Hall campus and then demolish Fire Station 87, which is the main station, and then the library. I do want to speak briefly on, there was a question about which station is 88 and which station is 86. 88 is the station that used to occupy the property next to Barracuda Bay that's currently in the back lot of the Public Works campus. That facility is anticipated to be reconstructed in a new fire facility that will be on the corner of Congress and Blue Heron. Fire Station 86 is the fire station on the north side of the island, and that station is contemplated to be relocated, and Chief Kerr does have a presentation that we will be sharing with the board with regards to the relocation of the station and the improved response times that we would get as a result of that. The question in regards to Fire Station 87, why we're constructing a temporary station, the board is acutely aware, as well as the community, that these stations are woefully inadequate to provide service to our community. We have significant water intrusion in the facilities, and so we thought that it was only appropriate in order to continue to provide service to our community and make sure our first responders are in a facility that can function in the 21st century, that we look to construct a temporary station that will be relocated basically on the corner of the Wells campus. That particular station has modular units, so those modular units, after the fire department utilizes that space, can be relocated, repurposed, and even resold if it is the desire of the city. So we will actually get a return on our investment. There was a conversation or a meeting that occurred on 24th Street about the access. We communicated to the residents that we were going to look to reclaim our property, and then we talked about some surfacing that we would look to put at the end of the roadway. We did communicate to the residents that we would look to do about an 18-inch knee-high wall. There was some conversations and discussions with the community as it relates to water access. We did tell them that that would be something that we would explore. That is a pretty tedious permitting process, but if it is the pleasure of the board to proceed in such a fashion, that will be something that staff will bring forward as one of the options for you to consider. The cost associated with the project on 24th Street, the estimates are still coming in, but we're anticipating the cost to be well over $80,000 to $100,000, depending on the elements that are contained. We did hear a little bit about public safety concerns, so we're actually working with the adjacent property owners to get access to cameras and have cameras, and then some low-level lighting that is compliant with what we need to do for sea turtles as well. And so we took all that information in, and we actually asked for participation from roughly about 40 people that were present at that meeting, and then that's going to end up coming back to the board with some options for you to consider. And access to the water or some type of water access would be something that would be an option for the board to consider. Risk management has looked at the potential risk elements associated with that, but that will all be wrapped into the conversation. With respect to the voting site at Wells, in the event that Wells is under construction, most likely what would happen is City Hall would become the voting precinct, and so there would be some switching or some alternation. That occurs in many other places. Precincts do move from time to time. A lot of times, sometimes outside of the control of the government entity. So we are going to be mindful of where the voting location is, and if there's any impacts to the residents, obviously we're going to do our best working with the supervisor of election to mitigate any impacts that persons may have. With respect to the Reimagine Riviera Beach sessions, we had 4 sessions that ranged in attendance anywhere from 35 to 60 persons. It was a 4-week session. We got great participation and great feedback from the residents, And there's a lot of elements that are from the previous presentation that was shared with the board in the past, but there was no community charrettes. There was no discussion with the community as it relates to the options that were proffered. So we took that particular design. There was valuable elements of it, but there was never community buy-in or support that moved any element in that particular plan forward. So when we looked at it, there are some valuable components, but at the end of the day, we needed to get feedback from the community. And so we rebranded it, we repackaged it, we looked at it from a different perspective. We've shared that with the board, and the board has given us direction to go and engage the community, and we've done that in the series. And all of us have been in enough government meetings that when you get over 35 persons that are different persons that attend your council meetings, that means you're reaching an audience that you traditionally haven't reached in the past, as well as, I cannot tell you how many people have stopped me that said they watched it on TV and they appreciate the dialogue and the deliberation and the thoughtfulness that went into the presentation. This is a series of subsequent conversations that we're going to have with the community about this particular facility and other facilities as we breathe life to these things. And there's not a doubt in my mind the reason why these facilities never came to life is there was not community buy-in and discussions with the community that facilitated the project moving forward. But we're moving in that direction, and the library is actually one example of staff's ability to execute. We do want to also share with the board that as part of your budget workshop on July 10th, we will be providing you a recap and then coming back to the board about a more thorough discussion about Reimagine Riviera Beach, and then what the subsequent phases are. Our timeline, if everything goes as planned, we would like to break ground on a new City Hall campus on the city's 100th birthday. So our target date is September 29 of 2022. So we're going to have to move very quickly, and we're going to have a lot of conversation and dialogue with the community to get to that point. But we do want to move aggressively. And the other thing about it, I think it's important that the city hasn't been able to, for whatever reasons, move some of these projects forward. And we're seeing significant deterioration of facilities, and they don't operate in the 21st century. And it is a burden for staff to maintain these facilities and also to recruit persons to work in some of these facilities. So we're at that crossroads where we have to, make some tough decisions. And we appreciate the board's leadership as it relates to saying, go forward and get us the monies necessary to bring 2 fire stations out of the ground concurrently. I had the conversation with the chief. 5 chiefs have tried to do this. But this board has been dead set on making sure that these facilities do come out of the ground, and we're working as aggressively as possible. And in closing, if there's anyone that never had the opportunity to sit in any of the sessions, we did say we have a Reimagine Riviera Beach Light that is a portable program that you tell us where you want us to meet you at, and we can do it in about 3 hours with a small group and have the same type of conversation and dialogue with persons. So whomever is willing to listen, whomever is willing to participate, we'll go to you. You don't have to come to us, but we know the importance of community participation in order to move this forward. And that concludes my comments, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Evans. You have a fan club. Yeah, you have one here too as well. But anyway, we will get back to our item that we had with Mr. Harvey. Are you still there, sir? Mr. Harvey?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, very good. And we'll pick up with Mr. McCoy's question. I thought you had some other questions you wanted to ask, Mr. McCoy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I had asked it. We were on the finding 008, and Ms. Wynn was responding as to the departments procuring counsel outside of their office. So, I mean, I think that's all. I just wanted to bring it to her attention. I think she was offering the explanation.
Okay, very good. Ms. Nguyen, did you answer that question?
I had wanted to follow up on a couple other points in that
Okay.
item. There was a statement that Mr. Harvey has in here regarding the cover sheet and that wasn't complied with. However, I wanted to point out, because I don't think that the explanation fully lays out what the office does. I implemented that memo requirement or cover sheet requirement when I became the city attorney and realized that there weren't controls in place. So when you go back at a certain point in time, you will not see a cover sheet because it didn't exist. So it kind of reads like there's something that legal didn't do that should have been done, but we implemented that process because we saw that there were some internal controls that needed to be put in place.
Very good.
That's all I have as it relates to that.
Okay. Mr. McCoy, is that your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions for the internal auditor? External auditor, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Harvey, for you and your presentation and your team. We appreciate your assistance and your work with the city.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, Madam Clerk.
So we don't vote on?
No, it's just a presentation.
So I distinctly remember we voting on last year's budget to accept it. I mean, audit to accept it, so that's not the same this time?
Do you want to?
Yes, we would like for the board to vote to accept the audit.
All right, very good.
Move that the board accept the audit report.
Second.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Botel?
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Pro Tem Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Chair Lanier?
Yes. Item passes 4-0. Next item?
The next item, Madam Chair, members of the board, is item number 7, Officer of the Quarter Award to Officer Joseph Hoffman. Madam Chair, members of the board, there are no public comments on this item. The acceptance of public comments on this item is now closed.
Very good. Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair and members of the board, we all know that the city's most precious resource is its employees, and we have ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And I think this particular feat that one of our officers did is just remarkable. And when I heard the story, it was something that, it just speaks to the character of the persons that we have in this agency. And I'll let the chief tell the story about this gentleman, but he has exemplified the great characteristics of a Riviera Beach law enforcement officer. So Chief Nate Osgood will make the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Madam Chair, Pro Tem, City Council, Mayor, thank you. I'm Chief Nate Osgood. I would like to give you a little background on what happened. I'm going to introduce you to the man of the month, or should I say the quarter. The man of the quarter, that'll be Officer Joe Hoffman. Last month, June 6th, on a Sunday, while on beach patrol, driving up and down the coast on the ATV, Officer Hoffman was waved down by several beachgoers. This is around the 3100 block of Ocean Boulevard, behind the Phoenix Hotel, our condo. One of the beachgoers frantically waved over and they told Officer Hoffman there's a kid out in the water. The kid was out in trouble, 150 feet to 200 feet, way out. Officer Hoffman also noticed a beachgoer in the water trying to go after the kid. Officer Hoffman quickly stood up, removed his duty gear, his belt, dumped everything, threw it in the beach buggy, grabbed the buoy from the buggy, and proceeded to start out. Officer Hoffman also recognized that a Good Samaritan was going behind the kid also. He took control of the kid. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can be a good swimmer, but it's hard to save somebody while you're swimming. The rip currents were pretty heavy that day, pretty hard. So the Good Samaritan himself was in trouble. Officer Hoffman yelled to him, let him go, bring him back in, come back in yourself. He would have had 2 souls to save that day if he continued. Officer Hoffman, as the beachgoers coming in, Hoffman continued going out towards the child that was in trouble. He had gone up and down a few times, Officer Hoffman gets close to him, toss him the buoy, swim back to shore with him. The kid had taken in a lot of water. He was coughing up seawater. They get ocean rescue out to help save the kid, to get the water out of his system. And I got to tell you, since I got here, we started recognizing significant events for our officers who have done extraordinary things, as Mr. Evans just said. That was not just extraordinary for Officer of the Month material. This is repeat, on and on, great police work that Officer Hoffman has continued to do. I'm going to back up a few months earlier. Officer Hoffman see an individual on the beach. He was acting strange. Officer Hoffman stopped that individual. That individual turned out to be, he took him in custody, not knowing that day, that individual turned out to be wanted for a murder. He had killed his wife in another county from here. That was another extraordinary thing that Officer Hoffman done. So he has been doing so many good things, so we had to recognize him for this life-saving award for Officer Corder. So please, Officer Hoffman, step forward. We're going to be doing a recognition at the police department for Officer Hoffman. I asked him to be here tonight. He didn't know I was going to read this. That's why he's showing his pretty legs. But I want him to say a few words, please.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Most all of us do things like that, honestly, and we don't get recognized for it because generally the news media likes to point out some of the things that maybe an officer here or there does that is not like that. But anybody that saw a 12-year-old kid drowning out there is going to go in. You know, there's nothing heroic about it. He needed help. I took all my stuff off and I helped him. I just told him, you need to start going to church, because if I was not there, you would not be here. I just happened to be driving by at that exact moment, so you know, it worked out for everybody. But I'm just glad the outcome was what it was, and a mother still has her son, and everything turned out good. But thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
What we have done at the police department, we also put up a big plaque to recognize the officers of the quarter and their names on the plaque. So if you guys get a chance, come by and take a look at the lobby, and you're going to see for this quarter his face on one of those pictures. But Chairperson, if you don't mind, can I get everyone, the council, to take a picture with Officer Hoffman, please?
Okay, very good. Yes.
And Madam Chair, before we do that, I just want to thank Officer Hoffman, because the people on Singer Island so greatly appreciate your presence there in our community. I hear a constant refrain of people who appreciate the work that you do and the way in which you go about doing that work. People appreciate your courtesy, your kindness, and the attention you pay to the details. So thanks so much.
I think we can let you pass the.
You guys should probably go there so the seal is in the back. Oh,
City.
right, thank you again, Mr. Hoffman. Good night. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, we're now on to item number 8, resolution number 81-21, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, increasing the cost for design, build, finance, pre-development services for fire rescue facilities from $500,000 to an amount not to exceed $1,300,000, providing an effective date and for other purposes. Madam Chair, members of the board, we do have public comment on this item. The acceptance of public comment on this item is now closed.
Move to approve the resolution 8121 pertaining to the increase of the cost for design, build, finance.
Second.
Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair, members of the board, I'd ask for Deputy City Manager, Ms. Elizabeth McBride, to make this presentation.
Good evening. Good evening, Madam Chair, Mayor, and members of the council. This matter is back before you tonight for two reasons. One, when you passed Resolution 43-21 at your April 28th meeting, awarding the solicitation to Kaufman Lynn, you also provided that staff could move forward to formulate an interim development agreement. You authorized the manager to execute that agreement once approved by the city attorney's office, and for that agreement to be returned just as an agenda item for your information at the first meeting after execution. And that's why you have a copy of the interim development agreement. And that agreement primarily just covers the pre-development and pre-construction activities from designing to pre-construction due diligence, site planning, permitting. It also does provide, consistent with action you took earlier, that should the city not move forward with that financing, Kaufman Lynn would still be developer under a design build contract, the final document that will come back to you. And we hope to have that final construction or design build document back to you within 2 months. Okay. Resolution 88-21, previously in Resolution 43-21, it provided for $500,000 in pre-development costs, and that figure we had devised that figure prior to working with the developer group and our owner's rep. The cost that you have before you now, the $1.3 million, covers the cost for the developers as well as the owner's rep for the city. It does have, and that amount will be backed out, a contingency amount should we have moved forward with financing as proposed by the developer for their attorneys. And that was based upon actual use of the funds, if you look at Exhibit B to the development agreement. Yes?
Is that it?
Yes.
All right, very good. Any questions regarding this presentation?
Madam Chair,
Yes, you're recognized.
thank you. Ms. McBride, so PSA is our owner's rep?
Yes.
Do we have somebody in-house that does project management for this or contract compliance? Because I see all of these services. I'm just wondering, this is going to be no different than what I think was just brought up in our audit. I mean, I'm not saying that they did not perform the $64,000 worth of services, but who's checking on our end?
Basically, if you look at the interim development agreement, there's a project management committee for this project. The city has as its representative our city engineer, Terrence Bailey, and our owner's rep, Chris Hassel from PSA.
Follow up.
So Mr. Bailey should be our eyes and ears.
Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
And this, Ms. McBride, I'm saying this respectfully, so this is getting right back to what I think we just seen in finding number 2020-08. Who's checking off on this, that these services are being performed? Is that Mr. Bailey?
Mr. Bailey, yes.
And I guess, and this may be a question you can answer, but how are they billing us, monthly, or is it?
If you look, let's see, hold on.
But I guess.
Monthly. If you look at Exhibit B that we have attached.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're not I mean, $64,000, I know we only been here, what now? Not even 2 months in a full, not even a full 60 days. I just want to make sure that there's somebody on our side that is ensuring that PSA.
PSA 64,000 is the total amount for 4 months now. It's not per month.
So this was before we started.
Or 4 months.
But their services started before we entered into the, I guess, the direction to go and move forward with Kaufman Lynn?
They've just started, sir. They really have just started. We had no reason to be using them before we brought on Kaufman Lynn.
That's been 4 months now?
No, it hasn't been 4 months. I say their services really just started in the month of June.
Okay.
Okay.
And we've 64,000 for the month of June.
No, the 64,000 is for June, July, August, and September.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that's why I was asking Ms. McBride.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, you know, you got this, there's a PSA scope of services. It's not even clear whether or not it was already performed. It just kind of gives a breakdown of hours, I suppose. So I exactly wasn't sure whether this already performed or not.
I'll be honest with you, I wish I can remember the date. The actual date that we first met with them for their services related to this contract was about 2 weeks ago. And it was after that meeting we devised the scope of services. So really, it's just in the last 2 weeks we've devised the scope of services for this project. You know, they were hired with a group, I guess it was 4 or 5 persons, companies that were hired as owner's rep, and they were put on a rotational basis, but the services, the contract still required a scope of services to be agreed upon by the parties, and the contract did not dictate the actual commencement of their services.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Okay.
Very good. Any other questions for Ms. McBride? I would also like to say that if the, Mr. Bailey is our eyes and ears, and he should be present with you when you present these items.
He has something else to do tonight.
But I'm just saying,
Yeah,
he needs to
and
be
I-
present
Mhm.
to answer any questions in regards to these. Thank you. Any other questions in regards to this item? Thank you, ma'am. Can we call the question?
Madam Chair, members of the board, we do have public comment on this item. Bonnie Larson, Bessie Brown, Mary Brown.
Very good.
Bonnie?
She said no.
Bessie Brown,
She's gone.
Mary Brown.
Hi, Mary Brown, Riviera Beach. I totally agree that on a project like this, if we are to get on the ball and do what we need to do to build up our facilities in the 21st century, we need someone other to watch the hen in the hen house. I want you to remember that, to watch the hen in the hen house. Because we do want these projects to go and to move once when we dedicate ourselves to make these big-time financial investments. I can't have babies stalling around here. I can't have somebody that I have to feed into their little whims and wants and needs. This is not about one person here. This project is a huge project, and we want that fire station built for the 21st century. I have no objection to what we need to move it. But I, as a resident, and we looked at, we need somebody to watch the hen in the hen house. And I'm asking this board here to do that as well. So when something falls in the gap, I always believe in, Ms. Brown got 4 sets of eyes, 2 natural and 2 glasses, plus bifocals. So I'm watching, and they're helping me watch too, so I can see what I need to see that maybe will come in a gap. And while we are talking about the fire station, because they deal with water, And at the library, I just want to say too, Fire, I know you're going to deal with water. I picked up this water quality report at the library, our new library. And I want the residents to compare it with West Palm Beach and our surrounding areas. And we still come out on top. So firemen, you will put out our water with the water that we have, as well as from our hydrant. And you will do a good job. But I need for you all to move on the projects that we need to move on. And I need for somebody to watch the hen in the hen house so that we will not have gaps like we have had before. So I'm asking you, boy, because I am going to hold you accountable. Not just me, we as residents as well, because we want things done. And I totally agree that perhaps we need to go back and workshop that phase 2, because there's a lot of gaps in there that we need to bring up to date. So let's get on the ball and let's do these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Madam Clerk.
Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Councilperson Botel?
Yes.
Pro Tem Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Chair Lanier?
Yes, unanimous vote in favor of this item. Number 9, Madam Clerk.
Item number 9, selection of a voting candidate for the Palm Beach County League of Cities and the Florida League of Cities.
Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair and members of the board, this item is to be presented by the city clerk, but I can definitely stand in. We're looking to obtain a delegate as well as a representative. In the past, Councilperson Botel was the member and Councilperson Miller Anderson was the alternate. So we would need for the board to select a member to represent and then an alternative as well.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I continue to serve on the board of directors of the league, so I don't mind doing it, and if Kashama doesn't mind.
Yeah, we had a discussion.
Yeah.
So
We're good.
when we selected it, so I
That's
guess you just need a motion, right?
You have any objection, Mr. McCoy? All right.
No, but that's what I was saying. This seems really unusual, so. Yeah, I don't know what,
Well, it stays the way it does, Botel as
but let's
the,
formalize the action.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Madam
Make a
Chair,
motion,
members of the
please.
board, this is for any items that may come up at your conferences that need to be voted upon.
Right.
So when it comes down to the Palm Beach County League of Cities, the Palm Beach County League of Cities, in speaking with the representative, they indicated that they don't foresee anything coming up that a member would need to vote upon. However, it's good to have someone on record that can do the vote as the representative for the city. And in the backup, you will see where I did indicate that Ms. Botel was the representative for the city and Ms. Miller Anderson is the alternate. However, if the board does not want to go with Ms. Botel and Ms. Miller Anderson as the alternate for the voting delegate, they're more than welcome to do so. As well as the same thing for the Florida League of Cities Conference that's coming up next month. As of right now, when I last spoke with the representative, they don't see anything that will be coming up for voting. However, as you all know, that can change. And so it is our responsibility to make sure that we have a voting delegate there. So you will have to determine whether or not you want Ms. Botel to be the voting delegate at the Florida League of Cities and Ms. Miller Anderson to be the alternate as well for the Florida League of Cities.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Melinda.
So in the years past, when we've had the voting at the Florida League of Cities conferences, it's always been consistent with what we selected for the Palm Beach County League. So in years past, when I was the representative, I was also the delegate to vote. So if we stay consistent what we've done before, we would just be making a motion to vote on it as it is, unless somebody wants to change that.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I don't have a problem with that, and that's absolutely fine, but for all intents and purposes, if this is general membership, and you know how those conferences get, the membership is called at any point. I don't have a problem with Dr. Botel being primary, you being alternate, but I just think that every member should have the opportunity, because in the event that there is some unusual circumstances where there is a membership meeting and there is a vote call, I don't want us not to have a seat at the table if neither one of you are there, especially if it allows for having multiple alternates.
Can we put more?
Does it allow for?
It doesn't allow for that, does it?
It clearly does.
The voting delegate form was attached, and it does indicate for the Florida League of Cities, I believe, where additional alternate members can be placed. I'm not for certain about the Palm Beach County League of Cities, but I'm quite sure if we make the decision as an entity to do it, they will go along with it, long as I have it indicated on the form and I sign off on it, on the action taken by the board.
So
Madam Chair.
I'll make a motion that,
Hold on a second.
So what I was going to say is, first of all, who's going to the conference? I think they always vote at the conference typically if there's something coming up. So, one, you want to make sure whoever we're putting down will be going.
I'm going.
I'll be going too. Mr. McCoy, you going?
Yes.
Okay, so you want to be an alternate too?
Yes.
Sounds like he does.
Yes, Board Member Miller Anderson, but if you look at the form, I mean, it essentially allows anybody that's a part of the governing body. So all I'm suggesting is we won't run afoul any kind of way. If you guys want to go in sequential order, we can put even the mayor for that matter on the form. It allows you to have multiple alternates. That's what I'm saying. So
I understand. That's why I was saying, well, do you want to have your name on there? If you're not,
Yeah,
if
that's fine.
somebody's not attending, I mean, there's no point in putting your name on there. So if everybody's going, if everybody want to put their name on, they can, because we can all attend. We can
Sure.
all attend the meeting. So we just don't want to be where we don't have anyone.
so I'm making a motion that I'll be the primary voting delegate, and Councilwoman Miller Anderson will be the first alternate, and the other alternates will be named as the rest of the council, including the mayor. Did you get that? So put everybody on there, in other words.
McCoy be third, so he can be next. McCoy third?
Can I get this? Yes, that's fine. Can we get a second?
Second.
Very good. Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Botel?
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy?
yes.
Oh, my apologies. We do have a public comment card on this item. Mary Bram?
Ms. Brown said, wait a minute.
You want to be the delegate, Ms. Brown?
Mayor Bram Rivera Beach, three strikes, you're out. Okay? Just kidding. The League of Cities, we know that this is important. And within our city, I agree with these two representatives. Why? Because Kashama Miller, business aspect, as well as residents. And to put you on those boards there as a resident that represent our city, as well as a business. Miss Dr. Botel, she's good at that too. So these are two good representatives that I would, sitting up there, I would agree with. You all can attend, but the League of City always need that delegated vote by to help push your issues or our concerns, about our city. And I look at you two as being vested in these areas. I'm going to use that word there because you both are vested, not saying that the rest is not vested. But I need somebody there when Ms. Bram is not there. I need somebody to get up and attend these things here that needs to be attended. Not when you want to, but when you must, as a representative. So I feel that you two would do well, not saying that the others, but I'm just looking at the totality of business, doing business, because this is about who we are now, with our reimagining and just coming out of what we have came out of, and still standing to make us realize we have a lot ahead of us. And we can do it. We can do it. And everything now, we want to be on that century here to say that we gave it, not our best, but we gave it our #1 star, because we are reaching for the stars here now. We may not grab them, but they are within our reach. So, and I want this board to think, that step out of those boxes there and think that ingenuity and bring that clarity. And Chairperson should Ms. Lanier, We love you. Yes, we do. We love you. We love all of you all. But Ms. Bram does not want to be in a meeting 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 1 o'clock. It doesn't take all day long to do business. So we thank you as a board that's coming into that frame and realizing that. Sometimes we have 2 and 3 meetings and we're able to get out of here before 9 o'clock. Yeah, Ms. Bram gonna give you a clap. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bram. Thank you, Ms. Bram. Madam Clerk.
Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Councilperson Botel?
Yes.
Pro Tem Millie Anderson?
Yes.
Chair Lanier?
Yes. Yes, can we have comments from our city manager, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, just a couple of brief items related to the Marina Phase 2 project on the CRA side. In the agenda packet that was posted this evening for the CRA, we are asking for the board to consider having a meeting on the 29th of July to bring some of the particular elements to closure. We're at a point where we believe that by July 14th, the board will authorize us to move forward with our financial consultant to look at the financial elements associated with the developer's proposal on element 8. We will have the parking study concluded, the housing study. We have the financial review and update of element 8, element 1 review and update. Also, the Florida Housing Finance Corporation, the 9% tax credit program, the application, and the board making a determination if they're going to support that project, as well as the developer has revised their proposed plan, and then we want to talk about site control and the master lease agreement. So that's actually in the agenda packet. Staff will then begin having individual conversations with the board concerning the project to be able to have a lot of your questions answered prior to that meeting and bring you up to speed about the conversations that have been had at the staff level concerning that. So that's going to be a publicly advertised meeting, and certainly those are going to be items that are placed on the agenda, and we are going to have it as a regular meeting, so there will be an opportunity for citizen input. With regards to what was stated earlier as it relates to community charrettes, that's something that we could do, but we have to understand that that's part of the solicitation and was elements that they were looking to bring online associated with commercial, retail, or what have you. And so there can be community conversations as to what those elements are, but when we do look to have that meeting with you on the 29th, at that point, that's really when we're going to see if the board is going to facilitate some of the authorizations that need to occur for the project to move into subsequent phases. So I did want you to know that we will be asking for a special meeting on the 29th of July, which is a Thursday. Related to shifting gears on the tragedy that occurred in Surfside, I provided you all with a memorandum that was jointly crafted by Development Services, Fire Rescue, City Admin, to speak to the city's desire to see facilities and structures, residential, commercial, and business facilities go through a process that looks at the structural integrity of those facilities. And most agencies, Miami-Dade County and Broward County, have a more stringent restriction, but they're asking for, buildings to go through the certification process at 40 years. We're asking for persons to really consider looking at it at 25 and then at 40 for multiple reasons. One, being a coastal community and buildings taking the inclement weather throughout the year, we do want to make sure that if they identify an issue at year 20 or year 25, it's going to be profoundly cheaper and easier to mitigate as opposed to waiting till the later part of that particular spectrum, and then finances for that particular association may be that much more of a lift. So we will be sending that information to all condo associations, all buildings, all property owners that we deem to be within that particular category, and certainly the city is going to help facilitate as much as possible. We have had the opportunity to send a small group of fire personnel to assist on the recovery efforts in Surfside, and our folks have done an outstanding job, and it is something that puts a lot of things into perspective for them as they return back. And so once they have concluded their service, I will ask for the chief to have them come and share some information with you that I think is important and applicable to what we're going to do here on the city side. But we are advocating for a countywide system that looks to standardize how buildings are inspected and what the expectation, and then ultimately wanting to see some action on the Florida State Legislature that speaks to that, so there's uniformity and consistency throughout the state. And then lastly, the staff did an outstanding job in breathing life to the library and the YEP facility, or the Emerging Community Center. There is a lot of components that are still coming online, but we are so impressed and proud of all the staff members and all the persons from every department that put a little bit of effort into breathing life to this. So I can't thank the board enough for your leadership and your vision and your commitment to helping us move forward. The city attorney, from looking at all the agreements and the change orders and the resolutions, you know, we couldn't have done it if we didn't have outstanding legal counsel, and then the staff and the department directors jumping in and doing whatever's necessary, and our contractors were outstanding. There's not many construction projects I've ever managed where I don't hear from the general contractor with bad news. This general contractor, Mr. Randolph, did an outstanding job and really represented what the vision of the city was in this particular facility. So we're glad that we helped local minority businesses in our community, and it was one of the first major projects that the city has done in a long time. And so we're so enthusiastic about the future and what it holds. And for the community, like I've said before, you know, you definitely need to get some sunglasses, because the vision for the city is really bright. So, and Ms. Bonnie Larson, it's great to see you back. I personally missed you, and I do have that letter that Bonnie got her 3 minutes in a letter she wrote to me. I'm just saying that. But certainly we're glad to see you back out and engaging with us. We appreciate it, and we certainly missed you. So, Madam Chair, that concludes my comments.
Thank you, sir. City Attorney.
Yes, Madam Chair. Pursuant to Florida Statute 286.0118D, Public Meetings and Records, and in a desire to obtain advice concerning litigation, I'm requesting a time that the City Council is available for a closed executive session in the matter of Lady March Goldwire versus the City of Riviera Beach, case number 9-18-CV-81285. Trial in this matter is scheduled on the court's 2-week trial docket commencing August 2nd, 2021. And in light of the upcoming trial, I'd like to request a closed executive session with the council to discuss this matter further. Are you all available on July 21st at 5:15, beginning at 5:15 p.m. for the closed executive session?
Madam
Yes.
Chair.
Okay.
Oh, do we have a utility special district meeting that night?
Yes, you do.
Okay, so what time are you saying, 5?
5:15.
Yes.
For approximately 1 hour, and then we would begin the utility special district meeting and then regular city council meeting.
Okay.
I noticed the utility district was on that same day. We don't have another date that we can use, that we don't have all this stuff already on the agenda?
You can select another date. I know sometimes people would rather do it all on the same day, rather than, come out another.
Right. All right, very good, that's fine.
Okay, therefore, a closed executive session will be held on the 21st day.
I'm sorry, hold on a second.
Were you asking for our opinion, or you just telling us the date?
It was a question, sir.
Well, can I answer?
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
So it appears that we have something on the 19th, a joint meeting between CRA and CDC. Is that a better option? That's a Monday.
That could work for me. I don't know about for the rest of you.
Works for me.
What date is that, Mr.?
July 19th, a Monday, is what Mr. McCoy is suggesting.
I'm only offering it. I'm not suggesting it because I see it on my calendar already.
That probably would work better, Mr. McCoy, given that it's not 2 other meetings already on that date.
But that starts at 5:30, so what time would we be doing the joint?
So if that starts at 5:30, what time will we be doing that, Ms. Nguyen, if we do the 19th?
You could do it, you could start at 5. I don't know, did you advertise that meeting? I'm not familiar with that meeting on the 19th.
How long are we planning for that meeting to be?
That was a meeting that we were setting up. I believe there has been some notice with regards to that. I believe I've seen some email traffic on that. But we can look to start the meeting immediately after or push our meeting back to give you guys the time necessary.
So if you wanted to start on the Monday, the 19th at 5:15?
Okay.
That'll work.
That'll work. Everyone's in agreement?
Yes, that'll work.
Thank you. Therefore, a closed executive session will be held on the 19th day of July, 2021, at 5:15 p.m. at the Marina Event Center, 190 East 13th Street, Riviera Beach, Florida, 33404. In the case of Lady March Goldwire versus City of Riviera Beach, case number 9-18-CV-81285. Those persons in attendance will be City Attorney Dawn Nguyen, Special Counsel Don Stevens, Esquire of Olds and Stevens, PA, Mayor Felder, members of the City Council, and Mr. Evans, City Manager. The subject matter of the closed executive session shall be restricted to settlement negotiations and/or strategy sessions related to litigation expenditures. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any committee reports? No?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I think a couple of weeks ago, I attended the Palm Beach Chamber North Government Affairs Committee meeting, and I believe Mr. Lawson was on there as well, and Dr. Botel, I think you were out of town or something. And so what was interesting is that I wasn't aware of it, and I don't know if anyone else is, because it's probably in the planning stages regarding a project that is looking to come across from the Coast Guard off of a lake shore with, oh gosh, what's his name? Granberry?
Yes.
And someone else, I forgot the other guy's name. But I thought that was pretty interesting, and I do want to make for the record, Mr. Lawson did get off the call because we both felt like, okay, well, we didn't know this was going to happen, but, so he got off the call, so it was just me on there. But it sounds like a project that is going to be pretty interesting, a very nice condo project, a high-rise. Obviously, they're in the beginning stages, and they were trying to get the chamber's support. And the chamber did vote to support the project. So that's something I guess we'll be hearing a lot more about. I think they're going through planning and zoning, I believe he said. But obviously it was something that hadn't reached us necessarily yet. But just to keep that on the radar, that is something that is coming before us soon.
Madam Chair, could you just repeat where?
Lakeshore Drive.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you heard it? Okay. So I just wanted to bring you all up to date on that. That is something that the chamber was presented, that information, and so they voted to have a letter of support to see that project come to fruition at some point, so.
Very good. We'll start with the mayor for comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No comments at this moment.
All right, very good. Mr. McCoy.
Nothing.
Ms. Botel.
Yes, I wanted to extend my deepest condolences to the family of Charles Morris of Lone Pine. You know, we know that he was injured, well, you know, he was killed in an accident on the 4th, and I think it's just really tragic, and I know that my colleagues agree that this was a very, very unfortunate event. And also I want to extend my condolences to the nephew of Mayor Felder, who was involved in a shooting yesterday, and our prayers are with him and his family. I want to thank Mr. Evans and staff for a wonderful 4th of July celebration. I got so many rave reviews from people about that. It was just an outstanding presentation. So I think we may be doing these front porch things for years to come. It's been so successful. Also wanted to thank Mr. Evans and staff for the Reimagine Riviera Beach sessions. I attended the 3 that I was in town for, and they were excellently done, and I also got rave reviews. I was not here for the library opening, but Sam and I went there yesterday, and it's just a beautiful spot. Really, really outstanding. I spent some time yesterday with over at the Stony Brook property, which is now known as Azure Estates. Assistant City Manager Jacobs and my legislative aide Sam Brown were there with a meeting with the management team, and we were briefed on what's been happening over there. They're now down to just 4 buildings left, and they're committed to improving the lives of those in that community as well as those around them. So we're very, very pleased to see that project moving forward so positively. They have started construction on the community center, and we hope that will be finished. We think by Thanksgiving. We had a nice presentation. Jim and Karen Gleason from Singer Island donated a MacBook laptop to the community center, and we were happy to provide that to them yesterday. When we will be having a police substation. We thought originally it was going to be in one of the apartments, but now they've decided to use the old community center, which will be a great place for a police substation over there, right at Stony Brook, so that they can service not only the Stony Brook community, but the surrounding community as well. So we're happy to see the progress in that community. I got an article, I read an article in the latest edition of National Geographic about trees, and I mentioned it to Mr. Blankenship today, and he provided me with a tree equity score. And I don't know if he's spoken with you, Mr. Evans, about this, but I'm concerned about the level of tree cover that we have in the city, particularly on the west side of the city. And I hope that as the budget process unfolds, we can plan to be planting more shade trees on the west side of the city, because we know that we need the shade, and there's a great disparity in cities across the country between wealthy neighborhoods that have a lot of shade trees and neighborhoods that are not as wealthy, that just don't have that kind of shade, and I think that's an important consideration for us going forward. Last couple of things, I've been meeting with Mr. Callaway to discuss plans for the city's centennial celebration, and we discussed at our lunch meeting today the need to form a committee to work out the events for the centennial. I have an outline of the calendar we talked about today, and I'll be sharing that with you, Mr. Evans, and I hope that we'll be putting together a committee to discuss that. And we've also begun an oral history project with Mr. Callaway. We'll be videotaping him and recording as many memories of Riviera Beach history as he can. And I'm looking at Bonnie because I'm wondering if there are, we call them conch folks, I guess, right? Is that the right appellation for people who were here back in the day when there was that conch neighborhood? And I'd love to be able to get some people like that, if you know anybody, or if anybody knows people who are about the same age as Mr. Callaway. He claims to be the oldest one with the best memory, and he certainly has the best stories, I think. But if you know of anybody else who would be interested in participating in that oral history project, it would be great. And the last thing I want to say is that if you are a resident of a high-rise building, please have your building manager hire an engineer to attest to the structural soundness of your building. This is a responsibility of you as a community. If you live in a high-rise, in a condominium, please get your building checked out so we don't have a situation as happened in Surfside. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller Anderson.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to Ms. Deidre Jacobs and Terrence Bailey, and also Mr. Evans and whoever else may have assisted. There have been a couple of things that I've called them on, like, for example, for some reason there's a hole that continues to develop at Blue Heron and Broadway, a very bad one. And so I saw, I don't know what they were doing. I think it was AT&T. From my understanding, it had some work they had to do out there, and it caused a major backup at the time. And so I contacted them, and they were able to get someone out, and AT&T did come out and repair that hole that was forming. It seems like it's something that is going to take a little more involvement in, because they're having to continuously repatch it, and it's happening more frequently now and quicker. So I appreciate you all getting someone out there so that we could provide some public safety out there. And then also this morning there was, I think it probably was an Xfinity line that dropped near the Wells Recreation by the gym, and I believe Mr. Blankenship, I contacted Mr. Evans, and he contacted Blankenship, I assume, and they were able to get them out there to come and fix that. At the time, I didn't know if it was electrical wire or what it was, but it was draped basically close to the doorway. So I appreciate you all in trying to address the issues as they come up, and, you know, not letting any grass grow up under your feet with it. So I appreciate you all for that. And just wanted to piggyback about the library. We had an opportunity to be there. Those of you that were out or out of town having fun, we had fun at the library. So Hopefully, you have an opportunity to go by, if, as Dr. Botel said, she did go by, but it is a very nice library. It's been a long time coming, and we don't want everyone, we want you to like it, but we don't want you to get comfortable because we are planning to actually bring our new permanent library with our City Hall facility. So enjoy it while it's there, but don't get comfortable and say you don't want a new one. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone, and the fireworks, of course, were great. But I hope next year we're able to get back to what we did before. But some people like the front porch, and you can still sit on your front porch. You'll see it anyway. But if we're able to bring it back to the marina, that would be nice as well. So, and yet, of course, the condolences out to the Morris family. Actually, the young lady, his daughter went to school where I work at, and so I know that is pretty devastating. He's actually the nephew-in-law of past Mayor Masters' legislative assistant, Ms. Debbie Isaac, and they've had a lot of loss in their family. You know, Ms. Debbie Isaac lost her mother, she lost her sister, she lost her nephew, and now her niece's husband, and they've had all of those losses in 1 year. And so it is pretty tragic for them, and, you know, if we could say a prayer for them and keep them in mind, I'm sure they would appreciate it. Thank you, you all.
Thank you, and I'd also like to piggyback off all of my colleagues and talking about how spectacular the library opening was. When I first ran for office, I wanted to have a new library, and lo and behold, we have one. I am so happy about it. We have, thanking to Deirdre Jacobs and her staff for making sure that it had some spark to it. It had nice accent walls, there was greenery, there are pictures. So it's really nice looking, and I'm really happy that it turned out that way. I also want to say that the Office of District 3 held a soft opening for the Inner City Innovators, which are the Hope Dealers, led by Mr. Aiken on Friday, January the 25th. The Hope Dealers provides mentoring and programming dedicated to empower and inspire any city youth to embody the change they want to see in the community. This includes initiatives such as Sunset Yoga and hikes and court advocates for troubled youth. They provide a safe haven for youth and young adults who are struggling to find their way. More information on their meeting will be forthcoming. If you have a teenager who is in need of mentorship, please call my office. And thank you so much for the residents coming out tonight. This is what I want to see every single meeting. Thank you. We are adjourned.